bit better.
Okay.
It's stronger than yesterday.
That ain't saying anything.
Nah, not much. But it's progressively gotten better every day.
Okay.
That's all you can ask
That's
for.
all I can ask for.
Live from Helen Fitzgerald's for first-round action of the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Let's get nasty. All right, Friday. We are here in Fast Lane. Helen Fitzgerald's is myself, Carey Davis, the great Randy Carricker, and Andrew Marsh. We're here down here. We'll be here from 2 to 6 today. You can come join us. Come have a Bud Light. Come have some wings. Enjoy the atmosphere. Watch some good college basketball. And just have a great time. And fellas, the Blues had a great time last night.
Oh, yeah.
5-2 victory over the Ottawa Senators. You want to hear the good news?
Yes.
All right, Jake Neighbors scored twice.
Neighbors.
Jordan Kyrou, 3 points, 2 assists, 1 goal. He must have been listening to us yesterday. Joe Hofer standing on his head again, doing what he does. Did a great job. Now the bad news is the Predators won, and the Vegas Golden Knights won as well, making this hole that they are trying to climb out of just a little bit more difficult. But all they can control is what they're controlling. Last night they did a fantastic job.
And you look at the schedule, and first of all, CD, you're 100% right. The Blues put themselves in this position in the first place. At least to an extent, they have an opportunity to control their destiny next week.
Yep.
When Vegas comes to town on Monday night. You win this game, and then you have to hope that Nashville and Vegas, when they go at it on Tuesday night, I would think that Nashville, they can kind of drive a hole in the, they can cement their spot as the number one wild card team in the West if they would knock off Vegas on Tuesday night. So these games after tomorrow afternoon, Blues play noon pregame, 1 o'clock faceoff here on 101 ESPN at Minnesota. Blues need to win that. They need to win pretty much every game they play, and then they just need to have things break their way. But beating Vegas, Andrew, on Monday night would go a huge way, huge length towards the Blues allowing themselves to make the playoffs.
Do you all feel that they are at a position right now where they have to win out? Like they can't afford to have losses or
I think there's a couple of losses there, but
I mean, to me, it just feels like because of the teams that are in front of them, you can't assume that they're going to stumble.
Right.
I think you almost at a position, you put yourself in a position where you have to win out in order to make it into the playoffs.
that would be ideal.
I agree with Randy, though. There are opportunities to lose, but one of them absolutely cannot be against the Vegas Golden Knights. You have to win that, in my opinion, in regulation. They cannot get a point at all in that game. You have to continue to build off of what you've done the past few weeks here. I like what I saw last night. Obviously, every single game there's going to be mistakes made, but that's why you have fantastic goaltending. Joel Hofer looked like Dominic Hasek between the pipes last night, making some great saves. Everybody scored that we picked yesterday except for my pick. That's okay, but it is what it is.
Like Brandon Saad.
I did not know. No, I had Robert Thomas last night, but he had a great game. But Jordan Kyrou scored, which is good to see. Colton Parayko scored, who Bradford picked Colton. Oh, no, that was you, Randy. That was Randy. And then Bradford had, who did Bradford have?
Bradford's with us.
I had Neighbors.
Who'd you have, Bradford?
With Kyrou, guys.
Yeah,
He was the one who had
Good
Kyrou.
play.
So
Good play.
So everybody scored last night, except for my guy, but it is what it is. But I like what I saw last night out of the Blues, and Jake Neighbors continues to be a force right in front of the net. His identity is in front of the net, and he's been unbelievable.
That blue paint is the neighborhood.
It is, and you coined that.
Yeah, well, somebody on the text line did in the morning, but we'll take it. Okay, so to your point, CD, Blues have 77 points right now. 96 is probably the magic number, so probably 19 out of the 24 remaining points. I think if they can get 19 or 20 out of their remaining 24 points, I think they'll be in really good shape. I don't think that guarantees anything, but if 2 of those 19 or 20 points are Monday night against Vegas, I think it does go a long way towards helping you out.
I think watching this team play has been so frustrating all season long because we've seen a team that can show up and win, 5 out of 6 games as they have in the last 6. And then we've seen a team that just puts together a streak where they lose 3 or 4. And you're like, well, what the hell are we watching? This team and the way that they're playing right now is outstanding. And it's unfortunate because they shouldn't be in this position. They had an opportunity earlier in the season where they were actually the number 2 wild card, and they could have kept that. They were able to sustain it, but just the inconsistent players put them in this position, and now they're going to have to fight if they're planning on making it to the playoffs.
I think one of the biggest things for me was the question mark about that second line. Could that second line bounce back and have a game that the first line, the third line, the fourth line had against Colorado? They answered those questions. Pavel Buchnevich, great game. Jordan Kyrou, great game. Brandon Saad on that line, great game. They answered questions, and you're going to need depth scoring as this playoff push continues, and they're coming alive at the right time of the year, something that I didn't really foresee happening. I thought we would see them sort of go back into a hole, and right around that trade deadline time, I thought, okay, this team, they're out. Like, they gave it a good run. They had some stretches where they looked good, but this is probably where they fall apart. And they've completely done the opposite. Now, the thing is, can they continue to do this? Because now this is the most important part of the season. If they can prove that they can win games at the most important part of the season, I can have a little bit of belief that if they do make the playoffs, they can win a first round against probably what will be the Vancouver Canucks, who they've struggled against in the playoffs in playoff history.
And here's part of what scares me. Part of what got Craig Berube fired was that stretch in December where they lost to Vegas at home, and then they lose to Columbus, and then they lose to Chicago. They play the second week of April. April 6th, they play at San Jose. April 7th, back-to-back, they play at Anaheim. And then they've got Chicago here, and they've got Carolina here before they have Seattle here. Am I convinced that the Blues are going to be able to go on the road and handle San Jose and Anaheim as bad as they've been this season? No, because I've seen them fail in this situation before.
Right, you're absolutely right. And so I think there's a little bit of doubt, at least with me, and I'm sure there's some doubt with the fans, that they could put a stretch together here going into April where you feel like this team is serious enough to actually make the playoffs, but I could also see them losing those important games, very winnable games, and then that is just exactly what we've seen all season long, and I would hate for that to happen at the most important time of the year.
Well, I honestly don't. I can't say I know. I mean, I don't think anyone knows. No one knows what's going to happen because, as you said, they've been so inconsistent, but it is fun to watch this team play when they're playing extremely well, and you hit the nail on the head. Since the trade deadline ended and everyone knew that their jobs were secure, they weren't going to be moved, the stress of all of that leading into that, they had lost 3 games prior to that trade deadline in a row, and they were just, that's the part of being a professional athlete that I think people don't take into consideration is you're a human being. Like not knowing whether or not you're going to be in a different city, not knowing if you're going to have to figure out what's going on with your wife and your kids. Are you going to have to relocate them, get them in a new school in the second semester? Or do you leave your kids in the city that you're in and go on and you stay away? And so all of those things are tough things to deal with as a player. And once the trade deadline was done, you saw this team start to excel.
I think for sure Carey Davis is going to disagree with me here. But I base success for a team based upon my expectations, what I think the talent level is.
Yeah.
For me, if the Blues make the playoffs and lose in 5 to Vancouver in the first round, that's a successful season for them.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
I know.
You play to win the game, in the great words of Herm Edwards. I don't, just making it, it's cool, but, and I don't think that this team is destined for a championship, but that's the goal.
But you told me one time, too, and this is why I knew he'd react this way. Every player on every team thinks their team is good.
Yes, every single game. You could be 0-16 like the Detroit Lions, and you thought every game you were going to win.
That's insane.
It's sick, but it's what is required to play at that level. Like, you have to have a level of sickness, and so every single player believes, we can win a championship. No, you can't. we can. That's just the mindset of going into every game and every playoff series.
Well, to Randy's point, though, I get what you're saying because I look at this team. This team is not a Stanley Cup championship caliber team. I think they could win a playoff series because of their goaltending, but I think we need to be realistic here, and I think that's what you bring up. The realistic expectations are that even if they do get in and lose in 5 games, I guess you could call that successful based on what we've seen all season long, because they have not been consistently good.
And the guy who put the team together said, I hope we can compete for a 3rd spot in the division.
Yeah.
He put the team together and was saying that. So why should we think any more of it than he does?
Exactly. I mean, if we did, we'd have that position, right? But we're sitting here at Helen Fitzgerald's having a good time.
We
So
should all have that position.
You can come check us out. We'll be here from 2 to 6. Like I said, enjoy some basketball, some good wings, some beer. Bud Light is sponsoring this, so come on out, come down if you're driving. That's Andrew Marsh. That's Randy Carey. I'm Kerry Davis. Coming up next, March Madness, and it has begun, and it is already madness. There have been some teams that have been knocked out. We'll discuss it next on the Fast Lane.
We want your insight and
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Kerry Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marshall. We are at Helen Fitzgerald's from 2 to 6 today. Come on out and have a good time with us. We're watching basketball. We're watching March Madness. And fellas, there have been some crazy games so far. We expect it every year, but there have been some crazy games so far in March Madness. What are you all seeing from this tournament so far?
I mean, we have to start with Kentucky, no?
Yep. You should start there.
We got to start with Kentucky. Jack Golke, 3 from beyond the three-point arc is incredible.
10 last night.
10 three-pointers last night. I believe he's only taken 8 two-point shots the entire year, but he was incredible last night for Oakland. But I think this goes to show about these blue bloods. Sometimes, especially with Kentucky, we've seen this recently, this one-and-done thing. Does this work, Randy?
Not anymore. No, and even John Calipari said, look, my average age is 19. Their average age is 23 or 24. You literally have men against boys, and the transfer portal has changed everything. We saw with Final Four last year with 3 of the 4 teams, UConn being the champion, but they were the only real quote-unquote blue blood in the Final Four. And you see blue bloods going down to non-blue bloods, mid-majors, on a pretty regular basis, and it's because those teams are getting experienced players. And the reason that people like Rick Majerus were able to win, the Tom Izzo has always won, we were talking about this yesterday off the air, Carey, is that they always had a program with staggered freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. Well, if you're a mid-major now, you can bring some guys in and build a program, but your good players are going to wind up at the big schools. Kentucky hasn't gotten to that point yet. They're still recruiting young players, and Calipari even admitted that it doesn't work anymore. He's going to have to change.
Well, I picked Oakland in one of my brackets.
No way.
Yes, because I picked Kentucky in the SEC tournament and watched them get beat up, and I said to myself, first of all, I've learned a lesson in life. I don't really bet on SEC basketball. That's just my thought, my theory in life. SEC football, let's go. SEC basketball, I tend to stay away from it. So I did have Oakland in one of my brackets. Kentucky, as you said, Randy, they're young. That's how Calipari has been recruiting them, high schools and going after the top players in the country. But everyone else is going through the transfer portal. They're using their NIL money to make these teams better. And I think that's going to make the tournament a much better tournament, because you do have a lot of teams where you don't know players' names, but you have a lot of teams that are really good teams and are working together and finding ways to win.
No, guys, I got to tell you that I think the A-10 sucks. I can't believe that Duquesne and Dayton from the A-10 both won yesterday. It shocks me. I would have figured that those two would be out right off the bat. And then last night, KU just gets a gift from the NCAA, right?
Oh, yeah. Now, I don't know if they end up winning that game or they end up losing that game. There's still some time left on the clock, but that is a call that you have to make correctly, because this is the biggest stage of men's college basketball. Everyone's watching. You need to get that call right. A lot of these guys, this is the last time that they're going to be on the floor, and especially for a team that isn't highly ranked, this is the biggest game of their lives. They put... We're getting some food orders here.
Diet Dr. Harley's going to bring me my Diet Dr. Pepper here today.
So you're a Diet Dr. Pepper person.
Oh, yeah. But Dr. Pepper products across the board.
Oh, I love Dr. Pepper. I've made that known. Absolutely. But, you know, a lot of these guys, this is the last time that they're going to be out on the court. And to put it all out there on the line and to have a fantastic play that was made, a huge block, and to have that taken away, I just feel super bad for all the players.
Well, we were watching the FAU and Northwestern game, and that was later. They were down by a little bit more, but Northwestern got a call that we all saw that it was the wrong call. And I don't ever, referees have a tough job. It's a very difficult job, so I never try to disrespect referees. But you do have to make the calls right. And you have all of the replay opportunities. There are multiple ways to get it done. So to lose a game or to have a game shifted or changed because of a missed call, as you said, Marsh, some of these kids will never play college basketball. They'll never have an opportunity to make it to the NBA or play overseas. This is their last real competitive in this type of, in this type of environment. So to lose a game in that way is heartbreaking, and it's something that will stay with you for your entire life.
Well, so I'm looking at Samford, and a win for them, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, that's not only big for their program, but big for their conference as well, to win an NCAA tournament game. And so I feel like there's a lot of parties that are missing out because of a missed call, which could easily be reviewable, but they don't have that rule.
Yeah, and there's really no excuse, and I know that KU is missing their leading scorer. There's no excuse for Kansas to be in a game with Samford at the end, right? And it's the NCAA tournament, things happen, but it is Kansas, and it is Samford at the end of the day, right?
KU has a lot of injuries that they're trying to overcome.
Yeah.
And so, that does play a part in it, but as you said, Randy, it's Samford and it's KU.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect that game to be close. Those two wouldn't even be in the same bracket.
No. By the way, today Baylor knocks off Colgate in a 14-3 game. Baylor wins 92-67. Northwestern, CD mentioned, 77-65 over Florida Atlantic. Otherwise, we're going pretty much according to the chalk. San Diego State with a 6-point lead over UAB with 11:52 to go. Western Kentucky and Marquette tied at 48, but still 16:33 left in that one. Clemson leading New Mexico 16-9 early on, and UConn and Stetson are just underway.
Are you guys upset that there haven't been more upsets? I feel like in the past years there's been more than what we've seen so far in the first 2 days.
I'm not. I think the upsets will come, but I just like good basketball. I like the teams that are supposed to win. But what makes the tournament fun is the upsets. Like when you have an Oakland beating a Kentucky. No, people don't even know that where Oakland is. Oakland, California, no. So to be able to win that game in the manner in which they did, that's a fantastic thing for that program. And so the tournament just brings everybody together. It's really an exciting time.
What makes it madness, what makes it March Madness is, Carey loves this, is Norfolk State beating Mizzou in a 15-2.
Yes.
Or Loyola Chicago beating Illinois.
No.
Or Bryce Drew hitting a shot against Ole Miss for Valpo at the end to win it. That's what makes it awesome, is the wildness of the first 2 days. So I would like to see a little bit more of that.
I think I'm going to get behind Oakland because as of right now, to me, they're the one team that is the Cinderella story. We haven't seen any other team come out yet, at least in this first round. But how far is it? How far do these Cinderella teams, how far can they get before people start losing interest in the tournament? Because I feel like a lot of people love the upsets, but when it really comes down to the Final Four, no one really wants those no-name teams in the Final Four.
I think they actually bring more excitement. I remember a couple of years ago, St. Peter's making their run.
I did like that. They got smoked yesterday.
They did get smoked by Tennessee. But I think that when you see a team like that come out of nowhere and people are tuned in, what was it, Florida Gulf Coast a couple of years?
Yeah, beat Georgetown. That was a 15-2. Yep.
So when you have those teams that just come out of nowhere and everybody starts to, and by that time, everyone's bracket is busted, so they don't care anymore.
Right.
The team that they chose to win is out. And so they just want to see a team just continue to go on and win.
I do think, though, that there is a place for the brand name, but I think the brand names are diminished now. I think North Carolina is diminished. I think Duke, UCLA clearly is diminished. Right. They aren't what they were. So if you're going to have parity, then we might as well have this. If you aren't going to have the brand names, and by the way, the brand names, we talked about it yesterday, or brand names because of their coaches. If you don't have those guys anymore, then it doesn't make any difference to me. I like seeing the surprises and the schools that I've never heard of, the St. Peter's, the Oaklands, stuff like that. I think it's pretty cool.
And do you think that the transfer portal has something to do with that?
Everything to do with that.
Everything to do with it?
Yeah. Because now, on a couple of fronts, number one, the kid's not getting minutes, and this has always been the case, if the kid's not getting minutes at Kentucky or Duke or Carolina, Caleb Love. He won a championship, and he wasn't happy at North Carolina, so he diminishes Carolina and enhances Arizona by using the transfer portal to go there. But our situation here, Gibson Jimerson is going to go somewhere next year and hit a bunch of three-pointers for somebody and wind up in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
And I think the transfer portal, if you had to wait a year, it would be a lot different. And then that COVID year changed a lot of things, too. Yeah. Once we clear that extra COVID year, I'll be interested to see if things kind of go back to normal,
Definitely. I do have to give my Illini some love because they did get a big win yesterday over Morehead State. It was a close one early, but Terrence Shannon and the Illini were able to pull it out. So hopefully my Illini can continue to move forward in
I'm
this
rooting
tournament.
for 'em.
I am too. I got them winning. It all. That's Randy Carricker. That's Andrew Marshall and Kerry Davis. Coming up next, we have What's Trending on the Fast Lane.
Coverage of one.
Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
It's time to find out what's going on in the sports world with What's Trending Now. Brought to you by Goodwill. Donate a car and get tickets to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marsh. Randy Carricker working double duty today. We appreciate you, sir.
It's a day-night doubleheader. I love it.
Back-to-back days. We definitely appreciate all the work you've done in helping us out.
Love being with you guys. This is great.
Yeah, we do appreciate it. Now it's time for What's Trending. Marshall, what you got for us?
All right. Unfortunately for Jackson Holliday, he will be reassigned to minor league camp for the Orioles. I'm bummed. I'm bummed. I wanted to see this guy play at the major league level. We will eventually. He'll be up there for sure. He had a strong spring, but I was seeing this and I was thinking, I wonder what this means for Victor Scott. If a guy like Jackson Holliday is not making the big club with the Orioles, is Victor Scott making it with the Cardinals? I'm sure there's no correlation there, but it just makes me wonder.
The Orioles are loaded with young middle infielders, and they can afford to give him a little extra time. He'll be up during the season. By the way, and I think we're going to talk about it later, there was a bold predictions at MLB.com, and somebody had Jackson Holliday winning the American League MVP. Hard to win it from the minors. But I don't think that Jackson Holliday's absence from their opening day lineup will have anything to do with service time. And I really don't think that if Victor Scott doesn't make the Cardinals opening day roster, I'm not worried about manipulation. I just think that the Cardinals want to get him a little bit more seasoning at the minor league level. And if they start the season and it is Dylan Carlson in center and it has to be Brendan Donovan in left, I'm okay with that. I'm fine.
Are you surprised that Jackson Holliday didn't make the team or is not going to be on the opening day roster? I thought that was a foregone conclusion.
I assumed that he was going to be there. That's everything that we had read. But man, they have a lot of good young players, and they won 102 games last year with the group that they have.
Yeah.
So they can afford to give him a little bit of time.
Sticking with baseball, Angels beat writer Jeff Fletcher. This is per Jeff Fletcher. A consensus among Shohei Ohtani's former teammates with the Angels, of course, is that it's unlikely that his interpreter was placing bets on his behalf because Shohei never paid attention to other sports. So I guess he's not involved, guys. His ex-teammates said he's not involved.
You never know.
Yeah, but this story is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Like initially, it was he was giving the interpreter a loan or helping him pay back, and then it was, we don't know anything about anything. It's kind of weird to see how this haul is going to play out because it feels like he knows more than they're letting on, and if that's the case, that would be a really, really bad thing for him, for the Dodgers, and for Major League Baseball.
Here's the reason that I don't think it's a thing. Because if it has any chance of being a thing, do you turn all this information over to the authorities to say figure it out?
Probably not, but I mean, if you are trying to distance yourself from it all, that's probably the best way to go about it.
But the FBI has been investigating this thing for a long time. The FBI has a way of finding things out.
I just don't know how. I want to get to the point where I have $4.5 million and I don't know that it's missing. Hey, I want to get to that point, Randy.
Carey, we talk about money a lot on our shows. Even if you have $700 million, you recognize that $4.5 million is gone.
Yes. I don't know how you just misplaced $4.5 million. You can misplace it over here, Shohei. I won't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yeah. I left some change on the table and it was gone. Okay, that's one thing. But $4.5 million with two $500,000 wire transfers.
I don't know, man.
So I was looking more into it last night, and I think sort of what I've came to a conclusion of is perhaps that his interpreter was lying about, just because he was not only lying to everybody else, but he was almost lying to himself, saying like, oh no, like Shohei, he gave me the money to help pay this off.
Yeah.
When in reality, he was sort of lying about it up until the point where he realized that also makes Shohei involved as well, and he could get, like, from a legal standpoint, he would also be in trouble, so then he had to come clean.
Not a gambler, but just channeling the gambler mentality here. $4.5 million out of Shohei's bank account, and the interpreter is saying, well, I'll win that back. I'll just put it back in his account and he'll never notice.
Right.
Yeah, that's not how it works all the time.
No, it's not, but for a degenerate gambler,
yeah.
Brad Thompson, all apologies.
He's not alone. I've been there too. Oh, I can win it back. Nah.
I just think this whole situation, though, for baseball is so bad. Like the offseason, I didn't think Major League Baseball had a great offseason from a national PR perspective. I mean, Jordan Montgomery's still available. I just think this is just something that Major League Baseball does not need, especially from the most important player in the league right now. If this was some random person, it would be a big deal, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Obviously, the news would be circulating, we'd be talking about it, but then we'd probably spend a day on it. But this is huge. This is Shohei Ohtani.
And this will bring more eyes to baseball than their entire free agency season.
So you think this could be a good thing then?
Well, there's no such thing as bad publicity, is there?
I guess you're right.
It's bad for him. I mean, I know that
he can't win here.
No, he cannot. It's unfortunate to even be involved in this situation with Shohei Ohtani. He just seems like a guy that wants to play baseball, doesn't want the fanfare, doesn't want to be in the public eye, and just wants to go about his job. And this is putting him directly in the public eye in a bad light.
Did you guys think about this? I don't know if you guys talked about this on the show. I was out of town. But before official free agency started in the NFL, every single good NFL free agent was signed before Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery.
Yeah,
we did talk about it. And we talked about how the NFL legal tampering, like they even make it sound interesting. Oh, they're cheating. No, it's okay. They can do it. So NFL does it the right way. MLB probably needs to pick up the pace.
Take a page from
of
their book,
off-season because it's really, really bad.
Well, speaking of the NFL, we did not get to this yesterday, but NFL officials are backing the proposed hip drop tackle rule change amid protest. What do you guys think of this? Obviously, Carey, I'm sure you've been tackled like that before.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
I love it. Ray Lewis almost broke my ankle doing that.
Oh,
really?
Yes. And so it was one of those things. He jumped on me, couldn't get me down, just dropped all of his weight and landed on my ankle. And I could feel my ankle swelling in my shoe as I stood in the huddle for the next play. And so I understand that this game has changed so much for defensive players. It's so hard to make a tackle. It's so hard to make a legal tackle because if you hit them too hard, especially a quarterback, you're going to get fined and you're going to get flagged. But that hip tackle is essentially the same to me as a horse collar. It's extremely dangerous. And there are other ways. You don't want to get drugged, but there are other ways where you can make a tackle that doesn't require you lowering yourself and dropping all your body weight on the lower legs of a player.
Like the horse collar, it bewilders me that it took so long for the league to outlaw this tackle, because you can tell, even if you've never played the game at a reasonably high level like Carey has, you can tell that that's a dangerous play.
Right.
It is. Trust me. I honestly thought when it happened to me, I thought my ankle was broke. Like I'm like, oh, it's broke. I even told the trainer on the way to the X-ray room, it's broke. I was walking, but it's broke.
Wow.
I think when fans look at these rule changes, they're like, they're just changing these rules because they want more offense and whatnot. But hearing it from a guy who's actually experienced that, I think it could change people's minds and be like, no, like we are trying to make things safer for the players. And this ultimately does not change whether the fact teams are going to throw, for 400 yards or whatnot. It's just a way to make things safer for the offense. And players in general.
Well, the important thing to remember is there's really no way to make football safe.
That's true.
Air quotes, right? It's a violent sport. It's a dangerous sport. There are aspects of it that you're going to be required to be physical, and you have to hit people hard to get them on the ground, especially if they're bigger or faster or stronger. That's just part of the game. But certain aspects of it, like the horse collar tackle, like tackling people low or the hip tackle, those things I think should be changed and allow players to not have to worry about getting their ankles or legs broken in the process.
So we get a text, how do you tackle from behind now?
Well, you can tackle from behind.
Just grab them around
grab them and wrap them up.
And you got to be fast enough.
You have to be fast enough. But you would have the hip tackle is when you literally jump on somebody and drop your entire weight to get them on the ground because you can't get them down. So
yeah, I've gone soft because I was upset when they put in the Brady rule, the Bernard Pollard Brady rule. You couldn't tackle a quarterback low.
Well,
now I'm in favor of this. I thought that rule was terrible, but now I'm in favor of this one.
The Cardinals are 6 days away from starting their season, and their expected lineup has been talked about a lot. Is it overhyped or is it underappreciated? We'll talk about it next on the Fast Lane.
Recycling.
Take it. Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marsh. And fellas, The Athletic has listed the 30 Major League Baseball teams' opening lineups and ranked them. And your St. Louis Cardinals are ranked 17th of all lineups.
It's the best in the National League Central, though.
No.
What?
No.
Second best?
No.
Third?
Sorry.
It looks like fourth.
What?
There's only 5 teams in the Central.
But we're supposed to win the division.
According to The Athletic, we're 17th in Major League Baseball and 4th in the NL Central. And it says the Cardinals are hoping for bounce-back years from Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, and breakout seasons from second baseman Nolan Gorman and outfielder Jordan Walker and outfielder Lars Nootbaar. Rookie center fielder Victor Scott II might not make the team out of spring training, but it won't be long before he's helping the Cardinals offense. So, Randy, what are your thoughts about this lineup, and what are your expectations for this season?
I can understand questions about this lineup. Here's what Katie Wu projects the lineup is going to be, and I agree with Katie from The Athletic. She's got Donovan in left leading off, Goldschmidt at first base hitting second, Gorman as the second baseman hitting third, Arenado hitting fourth at third base, Contreras the catcher hitting fifth, Burleson the DH hitting sixth, then Jordan Walker in right, Dylan Carlson in center, Mason Wynn at short. Couple of things. Number one, a couple of injuries to Nootbaar and to Tommy Edman have changed that lineup around a little bit. But I can understand why The Athletic feels this way, because there are a lot of question marks. I don't question better season from Goldschmidt or Arenado. And even if they give you what they gave you last year, it's pretty good. But coming off the injury, what's Brendan Donovan going to be? Do we know really what Nolan Gorman is going to be? He got hurt last year, too. Contreras, I think, is going to be fine.
What happened there?
A bad back.
When did that happen?
About a week back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he stopped eating popcorn, though.
Oh, yeah.
But then Burleson, question mark, you're hoping. Jordan Walker, we're hoping, continues to ascend. I think everybody agrees around here that he's going to. Carlson is a question mark. Wynn is a question mark. So I can understand why the Cardinals would be thought of that way. I do think it's kind of weird that Milwaukee is thought of as having a better lineup than the Cardinals do. But I understand the questions that national people have about the Cardinal lineup.
Do you think Jordan Walker is going to be a 7-hole hitter the entire season? Do you think there's a way he moves up in that lineup and maybe everyone slides down a spot?
I would like to see him ultimately hitting fifth. Ahead of Wilson Contreras and getting some protection from Contreras. And if something happens injury-wise, he can move up. But number one, I think the reason that Katie has him hitting seventh and the Cardinals do is to split up the lefties, because you've got Burl. If you bring in a right-handed reliever against Contreras, then you have to face Burleson and Walker.
Right.
So, and the relief pitcher has to face 3 hitters. So I think there's a lot of lefty-righty there. I think Jordan Walker's going to be a stud. I actually don't have many questions about him. I like the top of the Cardinal lineup, but right now you got to consider Mason Wynn an out, don't you?
Until proven otherwise.
Right.
And I think he'll be fine in the field. But just trying to learn and figure out Major League pitching may take some time, but I think he's a good enough athlete that he will find a way to get on base. He will find a way to make an impact at the plate.
And I don't mind Jordan Walker being lower in the lineup. It lengthens your lineup, which has been a problem for this team as of recent. I have no issue whatsoever having him be seventh, and Randy, you laid it out perfectly, that right, left sort of deal going on. I don't mind it whatsoever. The question for me is, why do these national people think that this lineup is not better than the 3 other teams in the division, when all I've been hearing all offseason is that the Cardinals are going to bounce back, they'll probably win the division, there's maybe 1 team, possibly 2, that could be competing with them, but there's 4 teams right here, and you're the 4th team. What am I missing?
No, it's... I don't disagree. The Reds have a good young lineup, and they showed last year that they have a lot of really good players. But the Cubs have some weaknesses. They have as many question marks, I believe, as the Cardinals do, and the Brewers. And we get a text wondering why I hate the Brewers. I don't hate the Brewers. I have as many questions about them. What is Garrett Mitchell? I don't know. What's Jackson Chourio? I don't know what he's going to be. Last year, Jordan Walker was supposed to light the world on fire, and the Cardinals wound up setting him down? Is Hoskins going to be able to bounce back from the injury? I would rather have William Contreras than Wilson Contreras. I don't hate the Brewers, but I just don't see how they can be considered substantially better than the Cardinals lineup. That's all.
Yeah, and Willie Adames is on there too. They were talking about getting rid of that guy.
Yeah, and they still might, depending on what Mookie Betts does in L.A. So it's here's the thing. Are the Cardinals, when we look at the top of this group, Dodgers, the Braves have the best lineup.
Yes.
Dodgers are listed as number 2, Rangers is 3, Astros is 4. I think that's fair. Phillies is 5th, Baltimore 6th, but are those guys going to be able to do it for a second or a third year in a row, depending on who you're talking about? The Yankees always have great names, but Judge never plays and Stanton never plays, and now they've got Alex Verdugo in there, and you don't know if Volpe is going to ascend like he should. I don't think the Diamondbacks are the Diamondbacks. Sure, they had some really good stretch runs last year, but are they appreciably better, the Diamondbacks hitters, than the Cardinals hitters? I don't think so. I have as many questions about them as I do about the Cardinals.
Here's one thing that I have a question about is this is ranking all of the MLB teams' opening day lineups.
Yep.
They talk about Lars Nootbaar in this article.
Yeah.
Lars Nootbaar is not even in the opening day lineup,
Correct.
and I don't see him being in the opening day lineup. However, I will say maybe I could put the Cardinals 4th because they're without Tommy Edman and they're without Lars Nootbaar. So maybe those two players being injured and out of the lineup could warrant them a number 4 spot.
All due respect to Lars, though, start with him. I don't know what he's going to be offensively because he just hasn't played enough.
Yeah.
And we love Tommy Edman here. Tommy Edman's not a really good offensive player.
Yeah.
He's just not. I don't think that he's the difference between making you a better lineup than the Brewers, Cubs, or Reds or not. As a matter of fact, right now, if you have Nootbaar in left, offensively, I'd rather have Dylan Carlson playing. In terms of offensive numbers, I'd rather have him hitting for me than Edman.
Or the ceiling at least.
Yeah.
Is there a player that could push this lineup higher than where it is right now?
I think Walker. I don't think that there's as much respect for Jordan Walker as there needs to be. And we talked about this a lot on our show when we were in the mornings together, CD. Last year when Mason Wynn came up, Mason Wynn, at every level that he's played at, has taken some time to get good. And he had a rough first couple of months last year in AAA and then turned it on and was electrifying after that. I think that Mason Wynn, once we get a month in and he adjusts, he's got a Trey Turner skill set.
Yeah.
He's going to be a really good offensive player.
That's Randy, that's Marshall, I'm Carey. The Blues picked up a big 5-2 win last night over the Ottawa Senators, and our guy Jordan Kyrou played a fantastic game. Was last night a blow for the haters, or did he just prove a point? We'll talk about it next on the Fast Lane.
101 ESPN. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's around Kachuk. Over on the far side, Kyrou. Then tore up Chico. And the pass to the middle. Fanned on Kyrou. Shoots. He scores! Butch Davis fanned on the original pass. Kyrou finds it. He goes high glove. And it's 4-2 St. Louis. A 3-point game for Kyrou.
You're up. That play-by-play brought to you by Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues for 101 ESPN. And we are back here at Helen Fitzgerald. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marsh. And as you heard, Jordan Kyrou had a pretty good game last night. We were talking about him yesterday. I almost feel like he was listening to the show because we were discussing his play. And the question that Marshy posed is, was last night a blow for the Kyrou haters, or did he just prove a point? What are your thoughts, Randy?
Well, I look at Kyrou. He had gone back-to-back games without registering a point at God, -2 and 0. The game before that, he had a goal and an assist. But then before that, he had gone 5 consecutive games without a point. The inconsistency continues, and that's the complaint that, or 4 consecutive games without a point. The people, at least as far as I can tell, the complaint that we have with Jordan Kyrou is that he is really inconsistent. And so last night, I think, defined what people don't like about Jordan Kyrou is that he shows up some nights, but he doesn't show up other nights.
Yeah, you mentioned the name yesterday, and you said Randy Moss. I remember Randy Moss had a quote, "I play when I want to." And people took offense to that, but Randy was a Hall of Fame wide receiver, a guy that, you know, you had to know where he was on the field at all times. Jordan Kyrou has an ability to be an elite player and be a perennial all-star if he were to play like he did last night. I think that's the frustration. So for me, I think it proved the point. I think people are saying, see, that's why I don't like him, because he can do it, but he doesn't do it all the time. And you're not going to have 3-point nights every single night, right? You're going to have some games where you struggle, but the effort and the energy, you can tell when Kyrou is skating fast and when he's not. You can tell when there's a sense of urgency and when there's not. And I think that's the frustration that a lot of Blues fans have about him.
Yeah, and I saw some interesting conversations happening on the internet last night about Jordan Kyrou. That is definitely the place you want to go if you want to see people just go after one another, if you're into that kind of thing. But, yeah, I think a lot of people are frustrated because you play a team like Colorado, great team, right? And he, for the most part, other than taking a penalty, was invisible in that game. And then, yes, he has the 3-point game. He scores a goal. But then you're like, it's the Ottawa Senators. It's not a great team. You want him to show up against the teams that are the upper echelon in the league.
Well, can we agree that regardless of how he plays, that Jordan Kyrou is a really important player for the Blues?
I agree, yes.
Let me give you a number. And Marshy does a lot of hockey. Marshy's a hockey guy. First of all, how much stock do you put in plus-minus?
I don't really put too much stock into it. I know some people do,
Okay.
but
Let me give you a number here.
I mean, there are certain points that where you're like, okay, that guy's been out on the ice, and he is very visible on this certain goal that was given up.
Yeah. So let me give you a number here. In Blues wins this year, Jordan Kyrou is a plus 30. In Blues regulation losses, he's a minus 39. And in overtime losses, he's a minus 2. So overall, he's a minus 11. But he's a plus 30 in their wins. That tells me that when he's playing well, playing consistent, playing a 200-foot game, the Blues are a better team. And when he's not, they lose the game.
Do you think that, I don't know, this is a crazy, do you think that he doesn't know the value or the importance of how hard when he plays, like you said, the importance of how it translates to wins for this team? Because it feels like to me, sometimes people that are super talented, they get locked into only their type of game or themselves and not worrying about the rest of the team. And I think that Jordan Kyrou is extremely talented. He has the ability, in my opinion, to be a 40-goal scorer on a year-to-year basis. But whether or not he's willing to do that or even sees himself doing it, I think that's what's causing him to have these up and down type of games.
And I think to Randy's point, like last night, from a point standpoint, he had a good game. Like he had 3 points,
great shot on the goal.
Assists. Yes.
Top shelf. I mean, it just
absolutely
what you expect from a goal scorer.
Absolutely. However, he made mistakes last night. He made plenty of mistakes.
Here's the thing, though. When you're scoring and
Yes.
getting points, you can excuse some of those
Yes.
mistakes. Like when you're if you were only going to give me everything on the offensive end and just kind of dog it a little bit on the defensive end, but you're scoring, I think people would say, I don't like it.
Right.
But damn it, he's scoring.
Yep.
I'll deal with it.
I'll take at least one of those guys, right?
But you have to score a lot.
You have to
You
score. And if you're not scoring and doing that on the defensive end, then that's when the frustration starts to come in.
Now, Randy, you've obviously been watching Blues hockey for a while, and I think a lot of comps for Jordan Kyrou have been David Perron, Vladimir Tarasenko. Which one of those two guys do you think Jordan Kyrou falls in line with? Because we know how those careers have played out.
By the time David Perron was 25, which is what Jordan Kyrou is, he was more consistent than what Kyrou is. Tarasenko, by the time he had been in the league this is his fourth year, right? Fourth full year. Tarasenko was one of the best players in the league by that point. Now, was he one of the best all-around players, 200-foot player? No, but he was consistently scoring for the Blues. The big issue here is that I think if Jordan Kyrou were on a pace for the same offensive year he had last year, that we'd all be fine with it. 37 goals, 73 points. But the problem is he's on pace for something like 25 goals and 50 points. I think he just needs to be more consistent offensively. If all the other numbers were the same, except for that he's accumulated this year, except for the goals, I think we'd be fine. But I think that's what's hurting him now, is that here he is, and last year when Doug Armstrong was asked about Kyrou getting the big contract, he said, well, the $8 million cut doesn't kick in until next year.
Right.
If I'm getting this out of $2 million, I'm really happy. Well, now the contract kicks in, and he's an $8 million player, and he's playing more like a $2 million player. I think the contract plays a huge role in the way we think about him, too. And it should, by the way, because the Blues signed him. He and Thomas are your two highest paid players. If you evaluate him as your two highest paid, that means you're evaluating them as your two best. And he's not one of their two best.
I wonder if people feel the same way they do about him if he's making $4 million.
Probably not.
No.
You're not frustrated.
Right.
As frustrated.
No.
But as Randy said, when you are one of the top paid players on the team, you have to be one of the top players on the team. We in the locker room, we understand that if you're getting all that money, you got to be balling. That's the expectation. And if you're not, then we're looking at you like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah. By the way, do you find it hard? Because I try to look at things objectively. I find it hard to defend his game.
Oh, no, I don't think you can.
From game 1 to game 72, or 70, I guess we played, I find it really hard to defend Jordan Kyrou's overall, not the kid, but the game.
Me personally, I don't think you can, at least for this season. You can go back to previous seasons like you just mentioned and be like, well, let's look at his previous track record. He can do this. This is just a bad year. Some would throw that out and say that. I just look at it for what it is this year, and he's scored goals, he's had big goals, but he's also made some really bad plays, and a lot of people are just fed up with it right now.
I guess my question would be is why is it a bad year? What is going on? And obviously, maybe there's something off the ice that we are not aware of, we're not privy to. But again, as you said, Randy, when you're being paid as a top player, you have to perform that way every single night. That is the standard that is expected for the people in that locker room, for the people in the front office, and for the people that are paying to come watch this team play night in and night out.
Right.
That's the expectation, and if you're not meeting that, there's going to be a level of frustration.
And if we're going to look at this from a global perspective, I think we all kind of thought that he was the reason that our coach got fired, our Stanley Cup winning coach got fired, right? And so that made him even more of a lightning rod than he already was. And then he made his comments to Jeremy Rutherford. He has kind of turned himself into a lightning rod.
I wonder if just St. Louis fans don't like one-dimensional players.
We love Brett Hall.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he could
love
score, though. But he was a very smart hockey player, though.
Well, how about Mark McGuire?
Mark McGuire?
Yep, one-trick pony, but, man, that trick was awesome.
I mean, if you can do it and do it well, you will be loved.
Right, which is exactly what Jordan Kyrou's not doing, though.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
But I don't think this is exclusive to Jordan Kyrou. I remember people being upset at Paul Goldschmidt when he was struggling, and they were saying, why are we paying him so much money if he's not going to produce? He's an MVP, so it is possible to bounce back from struggles, which I hope Jordan Kyrou does, and I hope it starts right now. Yeah. I hope last night is the start of something great for Jordan Kyrou, and he can continue that into next season.
For $8 million, all he has to do is entertain us. And he entertains me by scoring goals.
And if they're going to make a playoff push, he's going to have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, they need that from him. He's one of your stars or one of your players, your top players. He has to perform like that if they want to make this push into the playoffs.
I think there's a lot of things that are the ultimate driver for the Blues. I look at Jake Neighbors, him going to the net. To me, that's a driving factor for the Blues. If he goes to the net, more people are going to go to the net. You're going to find pucks in the crease. You're going to bang those home like we saw last night. And I think Jordan Kyrou, when he goes and when he does not go, like you said, the whole plus minus and all the statistics that back that up, that is a driving factor for this Blues team. And I think depth scoring as well. When we see the third and fourth line pitch in, we see this team win games. And so we have that blueprint, we have that formula. It's whether or not each of the players can consistently stick to that blueprint and produce on the ice when the time comes.
That's Andrew Marsh. That's Randy Carriger. I'm Carey Davis. Coming up next, we talked about the Cardinals lineup and where we projected them. What do we project the starting rotation? How are they going to be ranked going into the 24th season? We'll talk about that next on the Fast Lane.
It's time.
Thompson, the number 5 starter, Liberatore on the roster as a reliever. John Denson.
I don't mind that Zach Thompson is starting off the year in rotation. I don't mind that at all. I'd just rather it not be for Sonny Gray.
Yeah, if they're going to be any good, they need Thompson or Gray and Thompson to be their 1-2.
Take it.
Back to the fast lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carey and Andrew Marshall. We talked about the starting lineup earlier. We ranked them, well, the athletic ranked them. So we're going to rank the starting rotation.
Okay.
We just got the news.
Yeah, John Denton reporting that Sonny Gray will start the season on the IL along with Lars Nootbaar. Zach Thompson is the number 5 starter, and Matthew Liberatore will be on the roster as a reliever. By the way, I want to point out, I mentioned that Mark McGwire was a one-trick pony because his trick hitting home runs was so awesome. And people did text in and point out that he was a good defensive player who could walk a lot. We tend to underestimate Mark McGwire. 13th all-time in all of baseball history in OPS. The people who are right behind Mark McGwire in all-time career OPS on the list: Aaron Judge, Mark McGwire's 13th. Aaron Judge is 14th. Mickey Mantle is 15th. Joe DiMaggio is 16th. Stan Musial 17th. And then Frank Thomas, Larry Walker, Johnny Mize round out the top 20. And right above McGwire, Mike Trout, Manny Ramirez, Rogers Hornsby, Hank Greenberg. So he's right there in the middle of some pretty good names.
That was also really good names.
All right, so the Cardinal lineup, go ahead.
The starting rotation. So we were talking, obviously Sonny Gray is going to miss the opener, be out for the start of the season. But where do you see this starting rotation and how effective can they be going into this 2024 season?
I think it's tough to tell. I'm looking at this MLB.com post, and they have the top 10 starting rotations. The Cardinals are not even listed. They don't go through all 30 like the lineups, but they have the top 10, and they have some honorable mentions too. The Reds are on there, the Cubs are on there. So if we're taking these people, these writers, and taking what they have to say to heart, I would have to think that the Cardinals are probably lower in the National League. They're definitely lower in the Central, and I think that has to do with the guys that they picked up. I think there's a ton of questions surrounding the age of this rotation, and I couldn't agree more.
If you base recent history, if you base this Cardinal rotation on the last 2 or 3 years, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn has been better. I'm not going to throw him into that mix, although last year he had a 5.73 earned run average. But he did finish, I think, 3rd in the American League Cy Young Award voting a couple of years ago. And Gray was 2nd last year. But for me, right now, Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, Miles Michaelis are all 4th or 5th starters.
What about Steven Matz?
Steven Matz doesn't even register for me because of the injury. He doesn't pitch, right?
I mean, you're not wrong.
No. So I think if the Cardinals are to be competitive, Gray is going to have to replicate what he did last year. And as we just mentioned, he's going to start the year on the IL. And Zach Thompson has to live up to his potential the way he pitched for about 6 starts last year. But do I expect Lynn or Michaelis or Kyle Gibson to get any better in their mid-30s? I don't. I totally understand why the Cardinals' starting rotation is listed why they are. And I said I liked what the Cardinals did because they added innings at the back of their rotation. Yeah. You win that way. But I didn't like everything they did because I thought that they needed a front-of-the-rotation guy. Sonny Gray is our number 1. He's the Cardinals' number 1. But is he a number 1? The Athletic just listed him as the 35th best starter in Major League Baseball, 35 through 39. That's about where he is, but he's not a true ace. He's not. He's a nice guy to have. He's a perfect number 2. If you had a legitimate number 1, then all of a sudden this staff would look a whole lot better.
Oh, yeah.
So I was listening to BK and Ferrari on the way in, and BK was talking about the number of quality starts. And so Garrett Cole led Major Leagues with 24. He won the Cy Young. So that's pretty good, right? But what I didn't know, and which he let me know, Kyle Gibson and Sonny Gray both had 17 quality starts last year. That's one of the things that the Cardinals were lacking in innings, and not just innings, but good innings, good quality starts, good games from the starting pitcher, because we saw the bullpen implode on multiple occasions. So maybe, you know, if you're able to get those quality starts from two of those starting pitchers, if Lance Lynn can give you not just innings, but actual quality started innings, and so can Miles Michaels have a bounce back year, maybe potentially that this staff could be better than a lot of people are expecting them to be.
You generally win about 72% of the times you get quality starts.
Well, let's get more of those.
Yeah, so again, if you can replicate what they did last year, then you've got something. It's really hard at that age with no helpers like we had 25, 35 years ago. It's really hard to keep getting better at the age of 34, 35, 36.
I think one of the issues that Ollie Marmol is going to have this year is that when you get to the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, trying to decide whether or not to keep a guy like Lance Lynn or Kyle Gibson in, because that is the reason why you brought him in, or those two guys, was to eat innings. But if you're giving up 5, 6 runs and you're in a spot where it's a critical point of the game, do you leave them in because they're the veterans and that's why you brought them in, or do you go to the bullpen because that's a manager's job, is to feel out the situation and understand where your guys are in the bullpen, how many days rest they have, can they come in this situation and get the outs? Because why sign these guys if you're going to take them out before they're supposed to, quote-unquote, come out of the game because they've been eating innings?
I think, Randy, you say this all the time, and I always find it interesting. When you have a pitcher on the mound and you look to the bullpen, is that guy better than the guy that I have right here in this moment? If not, leave him in. Leave him alone. And if he is, well, yeah, let's go get him and let's get out of this inning. But that's the most important thing. And I hope that because of these pitchers that they went out and got this offseason, that question can be answered. Yes, our pitcher on the mound right now is better than anybody in this moment that we have in the bullpen. Let him figure it out, let him finish it out, and let's get out of this inning with him.
A quality start is a 4.5 ERA, and that's essentially what Gibson had last year, 4.73. If you could tell me that in 120 games, the Cardinals would get 6 innings and allow exactly 3 runs from their starters, and then turn it over to this bullpen once Middleton is healthy, I'll take my chances with that. I'm confident in this bullpen getting 9 outs and preserving a lead more often than not. And if you say, okay, we're going to have a wall of 6 innings. I don't want that, but if you tell me, okay, we're taking the guys out after 6 innings, but they're going to give me 6 innings every start, so they're going to throw 190, I'll take my chances with that.
I think going back to what you were saying, Carey, about does this guy, is he better than what I have in the bullpen? To me, that scares me because I don't know if the starting rotation, they shouldn't be better than the bullpen. So if I have that question later on in the season, that means either one, the bullpen is not doing well, or I have massive questions on whether or not a guy can go maybe multiple days and whatnot. Then I start having bullpen questions, because the way I look at it, the bullpen to me is way better than the starting rotation.
Well, I think you had more questions about the bullpen last year because your starters were not going deep enough in games.
Right.
And those guys were worn down. And it felt like to me, you know, you could have a guy pitching really well and Ollie say, okay, we're going to go with him.
Yeah.
And then he blows up. And then the next day somebody else blows up. And now it's a blown save. And there were so many of those instances last season where it all started from the starting pitching. If I can't get enough innings from my starters by May, June, July, that bullpen is going to be gassed, and they were unable to shuffle the bullpen around. So those guys were stuck in that role and having to pitch every single day, pretty much every single day, without anything to kind of take it up off of them.
I just wonder if we get the same results that we've been seeing in spring training from some of these pitchers, how long is this bullpen going to last?
That's going to be the key, and they're going to have to be patient. And I know last year they took a lot of hits, but they signed these guys with these numbers with the idea of getting innings out of them. And you just have to trust that, okay, kind of like Waino. They always trusted Waino if he had a rough first inning or two, right? You're just going to have to trust those guys to settle down and give you innings. You can't wear this bullpen out. And the bullpen is already somewhat vulnerable with Middleton out. I think the bullpen can be good, but you can't have it gassed by the second half of the season.
We got a text from the 314. Our offense is going to press again because they'll need to score 6 runs a game. That is also that's also a concern for me as well, that this offense feels like, well, we need to get these runs back now instead of trying to produce runs throughout the entire 9 innings of a game.
You have to play complementary baseball. If you are starting the game off and you're the home team and your starting pitcher goes out and allows 3 runs in the top of the first, you are going to be scrambling. And I think it does shift how you play the game from that point on. So starting pitching is vital. They have to go out there and put up zeros and not allow, opposing teams to put up crooked numbers inning after inning, because now you are chasing the game and it puts you in a bad position. I'm Carey, that's Andrew Barnes, Randy Carriger. Coming up next, we have Hot Take or Hot Garbage. Get your text in. Let us know what you think, and Randy and myself and Marsh will tell you whether it's a hot take or hot garbage. That's next on the Fast Lane. to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marsh. And it's time for Hot Take or Hot Garbage. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. And we will read it out. And Marsh, you will let us know what you got, Marsh.
All right, from the 217, hot take or hot garbage, with the Phillies joining others and announcing their own ballpark village, the MLB in-person experience around the league will be radically different in 10 years.
Yeah, I think I'll take that. The Cardinals certainly set a trend, didn't they, with Ballpark Village? But the ability to go to a stadium and then go across the street and spend a lot of money certainly is enhanced.
Which is more important, though, the in-game experience, the live experience, or being able to watch the game in the comfort of your own home, or at a bar, or wherever?
For me, it's still going to be the in-game experience, because that's really the lifeblood. That's the energy of baseball or any sport, is having people in the stands and having people be immersed in the action. I think one of the things that's happened, though, and St. Louis is maybe the prime example, or a prime example, rather than people going to a game to watch competition now, I think a lot of sports, people are there to be seen. It's more of an event than it is an athletic competition.
I was just going to say, I feel like sports feels a little too corporate now. Like, it just feels corporate, and I'm not like trying to bash like corporate sponsors or any of that. I just feel like the energy is just different and whether or not you're going to a hockey game, a football game, maybe football a little bit different. College sports still has it. They still have the energy and whatnot, but like baseball, it just seems like you're taking pictures, you're posting it on the internet. I'll raise my hand. I've done that before, but I feel like that's what it is now. Instead of going, how many people do you see at a ball game that are taking score?
Nobody. Well,
no, I used to do it with my grandmother at games, yeah.
And here's another thing that's happened. And again, this is just a part of a societal change. If you have your phone in your hand, you can't clap. Right. Games aren't as loud now because you can't. Everybody's got their phone in their hand.
They're not even paying attention to the game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank God for
that's a social event, right?
Yes.
It's just disappointing. I just feel like it just feels different, and even like in 2019 when I went to one of the Cardinal playoff games, it wasn't sold out. Mm-hmm. I went to a few of them actually. The game when Yachty threw the bat, did the slicing of the throat, great, fantastic game.
That was Atlanta,
against Atlanta. Half the people weren't even there.
Right.
Granted, it was a day game, but the energy was not the same from when I went to a game back in 2013, when I went to a game in 2011, hell, even 2006 as a kid. Like, it just didn't feel the same. And so I do think that, like you said, the phones being implemented, people are so glued to their phones and not glued to the game, it just feels different.
Yeah.
When it comes to basketball, though, March Madness, I think I'd rather sit at a bar or at my house because there's so many games. Right. I think it varies for sure.
Yeah, this is great at Helen Fitzgerald's in South County, 44 in Lindbergh. Being able to see every single game that's going on at one time is very, very cool.
From the 314, hot take or hot garbage? Because Jordan Walker is so low in the batting order and because of who he's batting after, his numbers won't be great because he won't get great pitches to hit like he would if he was up in the lineup.
I think it's a hot take, and that's one of the issues, one of the concerns that I have. If you don't have protection behind you, you're probably not going to get the same pitches, which is why I would prefer to have him up higher in the lineup. Because if you have Nolan Gorman or Nolan Arenado after you, or even a Paul Goldschmidt, pitchers are less likely to pitch around you or give you something that you're not going to hit, or because they know you get on base, you got some big guys coming up behind you, they're going to make some big hits.
I'm with you, CD, and it wouldn't break my heart. I know that the players don't like this because Arenado likes to hit fourth, and the Cardinals do play their contracts. There's no doubt about it. But how about if you have Donovan, Walker, Goldschmidt,
that's what
Gorman, Arenado hitting fifth, and then Contreras.
That's what I would prefer. I just think if you move him up in that lineup and have protection behind him, and when he gets on base, he's not a station-to-station base runner. He's able to run and move around. So hitting the gap, he can go first to third. He can go first to home because he is athletic and fast enough to do so.
That's one of the things that I had an issue with the Cardinals lineup construction, how it was so different every single game. It seemed like
crazy.
Not only is that a thing for the players and their psyche and, I want to know where I'm hitting, but you're seeing different pitches. To this texter's point, you are seeing different pitches. Maybe one night, let's say I'm Nolan Arenado, right? I'm seeing different pitches because Wilson Contreras isn't in the lineup. It's Alec Burleson. I'm going to be seeing completely a different arsenal than I would even within the game. It just, to me, it just bothers me.
Randy will tell you that was probably one of the most, the one thing that drove me crazy, the inconsistency in the lineup last season. Every single day I would come in there and just be so frustrated because it's like going to work and not knowing exactly what your role is or how to accomplish the job. Yeah, it's still baseball, but as you said, if I'm hitting in front of Goldie today and now I'm hitting in front of Mason Wynn, it's a little bit different. It changes a little bit. So it's the inconsistency in the lineup drove me crazy last year.
We kind of thought last year, Carey, correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of looked at Atlanta as the model because they had the same guys out there all the time.
Playing the same positions every single day.
And last year, Atlanta employed 80 different batting orders. Now, the Cardinals did have injuries, so you factor those in. But the Cardinals, as opposed to Atlanta, used 140 different batting orders. Atlanta used 80.
It's pretty much every game.
Yeah, pretty much every game. That's right.
That's so annoying. And I think some of those batting orders were like switching Michael Harris with one other guy.
Yeah,
right.
And the rest of the order is the same, but only 2 people flipped instead of like 6 different people flipping.
Right.
So we get a text from the 314, hot take or hot garbage. The Dodgers get eliminated early in the playoffs or they win the World Series?
I'm gonna give you hot garbage on that. They're pretty good at getting to the NLCS and losing in 7.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'm going to go that they can make it a long way in the playoffs and still get knocked out.
I agree with that.
Yep, and they, by the way, like the Giants, Dodgers should be better in the second half than the first half because they'll have Buehler coming back from the injury. I don't know if they'll get Gonsolin back this year, but Blake Trinan is coming back. They have a lot of players that are injured that are going to come back and be healthy. Clayton Kershaw, that are going to be available for them in the second half that won't be available in the first half.
From the 636, we were talking about him earlier. Jordan Kyrou, hot take or hot garbage. Jordan Kyrou will have multiple 40-goal seasons with the Blues.
Hot garbage. I don't. He has the potential to do it. I don't know if he's going to do it. And here's the thing: there are questions as to whether or not he will be a Blue for his entire career. So, I don't know that they would be willing to trade him, but there's a level of consistency that is required to be a 40-goal scorer year after year, and I haven't seen it yet from Jordan Kyrou.
I'm going to go Sunshine Lollipop.
Really?
I'm going to go hot take. At 37 last year, we know he has the skill set to do it, and I'm going to say somehow, some way, the Blues unlock the potential of Jordan Kyrou, and he has at least 2 40-goal seasons for them in the next 7.
From the 618, hot take or hot garbage, the Cardinals are going to lose 90 games again, and Mo and Ollie are gone for not improving the team.
That's hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
We're going to win 95 plus.
What happened to 162?
Well, I thought about the numbers. It's kind of hard. Hasn't been done yet ever, so I don't think this Cardinals team will be the first ones to do it. We're going to stick with 95 plus.
Okay. I'm going to go with they don't lose 90. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go they lose 81 or 80, but I don't see a scenario in which it's going to cost Mo and or Ollie their jobs.
No, if anything, last year would have done that.
Yeah.
I can't see them replicating what they did this year, but however, I think people underestimate how tough it is to be 20 games under 500 and then win 90 games. That's like a 40-game swing all within one season. That's very difficult to do. I think you're more correct where it could be more 500 and not 162-0.
And I'm going to qualify mine so that I can use this at the end of the season. I'm saying that every single starting pitcher, Sonny Gray aside, is going to be available for at least 25 starts.
That's what I would prefer. I said Nats was going to get 27 starts this year.
That'd be a difference maker.
Yes.
If he's good enough to get 27 starts and healthy enough to get 27 starts, that can put the Cardinals in pretty good position.
I agree.
All right, let's do one more here from the 980. Hot take or hot garbage? The Baltimore Ravens should finally be the favorite to win the AFC and make an appearance in the Super Bowl.
Hot take.
That's hot garbage. Number one, the most important players for the Chiefs are still going to be there.
Yeah.
And Baltimore, Patrick Queen lost to Pittsburgh, of all teams.
Right.
Big loss for them at the inside
They
linebacker.
got Derrick Henry, which is a great addition.
It's always good to have a 30-year-old running back on it. It is. I don't know if they're going to be a whole lot more productive offensively. They were pretty productive offensively last year. He can be a difference maker if he's healthy, but I don't see Baltimore being substantially better than they were last year.
I think Baltimore was about 10 running plays away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs, meaning handing the ball to the running backs.
You want a hot take? Pittsburgh is better than Baltimore in 2024.
Oh, you're just placating.
I do like that.
I'm not.
Pittsburgh has made some additions, and we have made some upgrades, so we should be better.
Steelers were one of two teams in the NFL to have their offensive line start every game, the same combination every game. Now you have the quarterback that can get things done. Najee Harris was misused. Now you've got an offensive coordinator. We've seen it with Arthur Smith and Derrick Henry that knows how to utilize a guy like Najee Harris. Defense is going to be fine. Pittsburgh's going to be really good again.
He knows what he's talking about. Listen to Randy Carey. That's Andrew Marsh, Randy Carey. I'm Kerry Davis. Coming up next, the Cardinals. We're going to talk about some overs and unders. Marshy is going to give us some numbers, and we're going to let you know if we go over or under on those numbers. That's next on the Fast Lane.
Kickstart.
Oh, by the way, Cincinnati's going to be better than both of them.
I'm ready. Hey, if you're a contractor or own a business that needs recycling, you need to learn about Scrap Mark Metals. They are tailor-made for your business to meet your schedule and your budget. Job site cleanup can be a mess for contractors, and they understand that. So set up a business account with Scrap Mark to recycle that metal. It's one less thing you have to do during cleanup. If you own heavy equipment, you know how frustrating it is and how often the repairs are coming. And when the time comes to end that suffering, Scrap Mark will get it out of your way. They'll haul your equipment to one of their convenient locations and get you a check the same day. Or you can haul it yourself. They have 3 convenient locations, Valley Park, Beaton, and Jonesburg. If it's metal, they buy it. It's recycling made easy. They offer a convenient drive-on scale and have the highest payout. You will always get top dollar for your scrap metals. Just go to scrapmarkmetals.com. Talk to my guy Lucas. He can talk to you about setting up a business account at scrapmarkmetals.com and tell him Kerry sent you.
You heard him on national radio. Hey, Marshy, do you have a preference yet for the Gauntlet? From thesportsbrokers.com.
So I just sent you the Gauntlet person's number.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Probably love this matchup to get this winner. All right, I have gone ahead with the wheel movement, so let's see. Would you like the text to go to you and Carey once more? What do you think?
Let's just see who he picks. So right when he like just have that ready. You could send it to both of us. And then we'll just obviously one of us just won't look.
Right, I feel more safe doing that.
Yeah, that way it's not too quick. And then if let's say I'm sure the guy will pick Randy again. But if he doesn't, then the other person can send the questions to Randy. Perfect.
Sounds good. Got about shade over 2 minutes till we get back. 2 and 2 1/2.
Fast Lane. I'm Kerry Davis, joined by Randy Sherrick and Andrew Marshall. We are live at Helen Fitzgerald's from 2 to 6 today. Come on out, have you some Bud Light, get you some wings. Marshall and I just had chicken and bacon pizza.
Oh, yeah. I had a chicken
delightful.
bacon ranch pizza.
Oh, man, it was great. So come on out, enjoy some time with us, watch some basketball, and have a great time. It's time for Cardinals overs and unders. Marshall, you're going to give us some numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And Randy and I are going to tell you whether we think it's over or under for this season.
So these are my numbers. Of course, if you went to FanDuel and you could find other numbers, they're probably way better, right?
No,
yours are better.
Yours are better.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to prop up FanDuel. They do a great job, but thank you for the compliment.
We're gonna prop you up.
So Nolan Gorman, I think we all agree that he could hit 30 home runs. Maybe he can't. Maybe he won't. Maybe he will. He did stop eating that popcorn, so I think that could produce a few home runs there. But let's start with Nolan Gorman. His home run total, I have it set at 31.5.
Ooh, coconut oil popcorn and the ability to keep that back healthy. You know how long that...
About a week back.
Yeah. He goes way over. He's going to hit 37 home runs this year.
Okay.
I want to go over as well. It is based on availability, if he's able to stay healthy and not have that back injury. But I'll go over as well.
So we were talking about the starting rotation. We've talked about this on the Fast Lane before about the win total for at least one of the starters. Highest win total for a starting pitcher, 12.5 for the Cardinals.
I'm going to go over.
I'm going to go over also.
Yeah, I'm going to go over. 15.
One of those guys, whether one of the new guys, Gray, Lynn, maybe or Gibson or Michaelis, one of those guys will go over.
15-7.
Yeah, that's Kyle Gibson went 15-9 last year. I think.
Yeah.
With a pretty good Baltimore team, though.
So the Cardinals.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. We'll see how things play out this year, but you're not wrong. All right, let's see here. Where do I want to go with this? Let's go with Wilson Contreras. Starts behind the plate, 122.5. Over or under?
Under 105.
105, okay.
Yeah. They got to play Herrera.
And he deserves to play.
Yeah.
Yep. And Wilson will have, he'll have some games where he's either DHing. Hopefully he's not in the outfield like they said last year.
Yeah.
But DHing and having some days off where he's not having to crouch down behind the plate.
How do you like my split of 105 for Wilson and 57 for Herrera? 57 starts for Herrera, is that all right?
I like that. Yeah. Somewhere, yeah. I'm okay with that.
Good.
I'm excited to see what happens with the catching position this year because Wilson Contreras, his bat does play, but Ivan Herrera has looked solid in the offseason and in spring training.
Yes.
Perhaps the Cardinals were a year off from their heir apparent becoming the heir apparent. Maybe they could have waited a year.
And Herrera had a nearly 1,000 OPS last year at AAA.
Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see what he does. Nolan Arenado, let's talk about the ribbies, the amount of ribbies he's going to have this season. I have the number set at 98.5.
Let's see.
I want to go under 87.
What did he have last
87?
year?
What did he have last year?
He
He didn't have 100, did he?
He led the team in home runs, and he missed the last week of the season. He had 93 RBIs last year. What was your under on?
98.5. I think he might have a bounce back year.
I'm going to go under, and part of the reason for that is that Gorman is going to have such a good year in front of him, cleaning up those runners in front of him.
I like that. I like that a lot. Let's look at Lars Nootbaar, games played, 132.5.
Under. Under.
Carey.
I'm sorry. He's already going to miss what? 10 to start the season?
Yeah, you're right.
It's going to be hard. Has he played 132 games yet?
Played 117 last year.
Yes.
And that was his career high. 108 the year before that, and 58 his rookie year.
I'm banking on him having one injury, and it's this injury, and then he's healthy the rest of the year.
140 games.
I'm hoping so. If this team is going to be good, we cannot have a ton of injuries this year. We already have a bunch.
We already got him.
I know, but let's get past this, and then let's let the season transpire.
What's that number again that you gave for us?
132.5.
Yeah, under.
Under?
Yep.
All right, let's go to the bullpen. Bullpen blown leads. I think the bullpen's going to be better this year. I have 16.5.
I'm gonna go over on that.
I'm going to go under.
Okay.
I have belief. I have faith in the Bulls. How many did they blow last year?
It was in
Was
the
it
upper
27?
20s. It was not good. I know
No, it
that.
wasn't good.
I think you're right around that
I
mark.
think it was 27. I'm going to go under.
Yeah, well, they blew 28 saves, but I think they blew more leads than that.
Yes. So I have blown leads. I'm taking it down. Yeah. Because the blown saves and the blown leads, I believe they change the ruling on that? Because I saw last year they were counting blown saves for the 8th inning, even though.
Well, yeah, if your lead is less than 3, if your lead is more than 3, and I don't know how many they have, but if you're up by 5 in the 8th inning.
Right. I thought it was only the 9th inning. Maybe I was wrong on that.
It's anything after the 7th.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let's go to this last one here. Cardinals win total. I think we already know what Randy's answer is, but 85 and a half wins, over or under?
Way over, baby.
Oh, man.
Wishful thinking on my behalf.
I wish
over.
I wish I could go over and not be sunshine lollipops, but I'm going to go under. But it's going to be close. I think they can be an 82 and 83 win team. If everything goes their way, I think they can win 83.
Does that win them the division and allow them to make the playoffs?
I think it might get them into the
allow them to make
playoffs.
the playoffs.
Yeah, and think about that though. 83, you're 3 fluke wins away from 86, and then all of a sudden you are a playoff team.
Nah.
I want to go back to the injuries here. If there were to be an injury that were to occur, not named Paul Goldschmidt or Nolan Arenado, that would have the biggest impact on this team, a long-term injury, who would it be this season?
That's a good question.
I think it's Sonny Gray.
Sonny Gray?
Yeah.
Probably. If I think of a position player, I don't think there's a position player other than those two.
What about for you, position player?
Would it be Nolan Gorman?
Well, no. I would be worried about having to count on Brandon Crawford every day.
So Mason Wynn.
Yeah, so Mason Wynn's defense is going to be imperative for this team. And that's not a reflection on the quality of Brandon Crawford's play. It's a reflection on his ability, his availability rather than his ability.
But I wonder if Tommy Edman does come back, let's say that Mason Wynn does miss time. Tommy Edman's going back to shortstop over Brandon Crawford, which would then perhaps give you an opportunity to bring Victor Scott up, see what Dylan Carlson can do with an extended run in center field. I think there's a lot of different ways to go about this. I know a lot of people think that, and I could be in this camp as well, having too many positional players is somewhat of a bad thing, but if you have a ton of injuries occur, this could end up being a good thing for the Cardinals.
And let's make one other point here. This kind of flew under the radar, but one of the reasons the Cardinals' offense fell off the cliff last year was because Brendan Donovan got hurt.
Right.
And he's your leadoff hitter. And if he's not setting the table for those guys, then you've got problems. If all of a sudden you do have to have Edman lead off or Wynn lead off or Newbar lead off, you just don't have the same sort of oomph at the top of the lineup that Brendan Donovan gives you.
That's a great point.
Indeed. Coming up next, we have the Gauntlet. Marshall, we need a Gauntlet contestant.
We do have one. Dan is going to join us. It will be his first time in the Gauntlet, so we'll see how he will fare today.
All right, well, we'll see how Dan fares. The Gauntlet will be next when we return to the Fast Lane.
Gauntlet.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
4 warriors, 4 categories, 1 challenger. Can you master the Gauntlet?
The Gauntlet is powered by Master, your hometown source for business communications for more than 30 years. Visit mastor.com.
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane, and it's time for the Gauntlet, and our contestant today is Dan. Dan, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you guys?
Doing great. Are you ready to take on the Gauntlet? Who would you like to take on in the Gauntlet? Let me ask that first.
Don't matter. Let's go number 9.
Number 9?
Shoot to the ball.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm out. I got to leave.
You got to
That's
leave.
you, Randy. 2 days in a row.
All right. See you guys.
All right, Dan. Randy is walking away. He's going to go find a cone of silence somewhere in this bar. Tell Bradford back in the studio to spin that wheel.
Hello.
Dan?
Yep, I'm here.
I said tell Bradford to spin the wheel.
Yep. Spin the wheel.
Oh, Dan, for your maiden voyage here in the Gauntlet, you are going to get hockey, sir.
Oh, great.
All right. Are you ready to go, Dan?
Let's go.
All right, here we go. Name the all-time leader in points for the Vancouver. Oh, let me start over because I didn't do this yesterday. You get 2 points if you answer the question without an option. 1 point if you get the option. 0 points if you get it wrong. Okay?
Got it.
All right, here we go. Name the all-time leader in points for the Vancouver Canucks.
Options.
Is it Pavel Bure, Daniel Sedin, or Henrik Sedin?
Did you say Pavel Bure?
Yep.
Yes.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right, Dan. Question number 2.
Very loud.
Sorry about
It is loud in here. There's a lot of people here that are having a good time at Helen Fitzgerald's. Question number 2 for you, Dan. Name this player who sits 8th all-time in goals scored as a Canuck, who last season was traded from Vancouver to the New York Islanders.
Oh my gosh. I'm trying to think of like a U.S. team. I will take the options.
The options are Alexander Burrows, Bo Horvat, or Kyle Palmieri.
First.
You would like the first pick?
The options. Yep.
Alexander Burrows?
Yep.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All righty.
All right, Dan, in that trade, Anthony Beauvillier was sent to Vancouver. Where is Beauvillier playing now?
Options.
Is it the Vancouver Canucks, the Chicago Blackhawks, or the Nashville Predators?
The Blackhawks. Final answer.
Final question for you, Dan. In his head coaching career, how many NHL teams did Barry Trotz coach?
One more time, you broke up.
In his head coaching career, how many NHL teams did Barry Trotz coach?
We'll go crapshoots. I'll say 4.
All right. Do we know where Randy is? Oh, there he is, right here. Let's bring Randy back. All right, Dan, how you feeling today?
Horrible.
All right, we'll see how you fare against Megamind here, who is in the Gauntlet for the 2nd time in a row, as he took down our contestant yesterday in baseball. Randy, are you ready for hockey today?
There we go. Yeah, the button has been pressed. And yeah, I'm ready for hockey. Let's do it.
Randy, did you win the fight this morning?
I did.
All right, so you're going to go 2-0.
Yeah, hopefully I can have a 2-win day. Another 2-win day. Oh, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Have you lost this week?
I have not.
I don't think so. I call it the bludgeoning. I don't call it the fight. All right, here we go. Name the all-time leader in points for the Vancouver Canucks.
All-time points leader. I'm thinking it might be Sedin. You've got Bure. You've got Henrik Sedin. And you've got Trevor Linden. I think I'm gonna roll the dice on Henrik Sedin.
Final answer?
Final answer, yes, sir.
All right, question number 2. Name this player who sits 8th all-time in goals scored as a Canuck, who last season was traded from Vancouver to the New York Islanders.
8th all-time for the Canucks. Okay, I've got an idea here, but I think I'm wrong. So I'm going to go options here, brother.
Options are Alexander Burrows, Bo Horvat, or Kyle Palmieri.
I'm going to go with longtime Canuck Bo Horvat.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
Question number 3. In that trade, Anthony Beauvillier was sent to Vancouver. Where is Beauvillier playing now?
This is I'll do the options. I have no idea where he's playing now. I don't think it's Vancouver though.
Is it Vancouver, Chicago Blackhawks, or the Nashville Predators?
Ooh. I'm just trying to think of visualizing the name on somebody's jersey. I'm going to go with Chicago. Final answer.
Question number 4. In his head coaching career, how many NHL teams did Barry Trotz coach?
Trotzier. So he coached the Predators. He coached the Washington Capitals. He coached the New York Islanders. And I don't think he coached anybody after the Islanders before he became the head coach or the general manager rather, in Nashville. So something like 14 years in Nashville as the coach. Washington won the Cup. Islanders. I'm going to go with those 3.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
All right, Marsh, you want to read the questions off?
Yes, let's go through it. We'll start with question number 3. Actually, we can't. We have to use question number 2. Let's just start off with question number 1 then. Name the all-time leader in points for the Vancouver Canucks. All right, Randy, you said Henrik Sedin.
Yeah.
Dan, you said Pavel Bure. The correct answer is
Henrik Sedin.
Henrik Sedin. So we have a 2-0 lead in favor of Randy. We'll go to question number 2. Name this player who sits 8th all-time in goals scored as a Canuck, who last season was traded from Vancouver to the New York Islanders. Dan, you said it was Alexander Burrows. Randy, you said Bo Horvat. The correct answer is
Bo Horvat.
And Randy, you used the option, so you get 1 point on that one. It is 3-0 after 2 questions. We'll go to question number 3. In that trade, Anthony Beauvillier was sent to Vancouver. Where is Beauvillier playing now? Both of you said the Chicago Blackhawks. Carey, the correct answer is
the Nashville Predators.
It is the Nashville Predators. So the correct score. The score is now 3-0. Of course, the 4th question is worth 2 points, so that means Randy will ultimately be our winner. But let's see if Dan can get himself on the board. In his head coaching career, how many NHL teams did Barry Trotz coach? Dan, you said 4. Randy, you named all the teams off. You said 3. The correct answer is
3.
It is 3. Dan.
You have chosen poorly.
You lose.
Well, Dan, unfortunately, you ran into Megamind. You chose him, but how could you not when Randy is in the fast lane? You got to give it a go, right, Dan?
I do. Hockey is just not my color.
Well, good job, Dan. Very good. Thank you for being on with us, and thanks for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dan. Good to have you with us.
Megamind is a hard man to beat in trivia. Just doesn't work out well for people. I've watched it for a long time.
Jamie kills me in hockey every time.
Really?
Jamie's hockey man. His hockey knowledge is off the charts.
So Jamie is really good with recalling certain events in the past, of course, but the one thing that really trips him up is the stats. Once you get going with the stats, sometimes he can lose. It's just it happens. It happens.
So thank goodness I didn't have random, because I would fail miserably at random.
Random is tough.
Dan should have chose me for that hockey. I would have been. We'd have been looking at each other crazy. The Cardinals made a lot of offseason moves in terms of the pitching rotation. What are the pros and cons to having innings eaters in the starting rotation? We'll talk about it next on the Fast Lane.
Coverage of 101.
Okay, guys.
Oh, hang on, Bradford. You might need to push that back a segment. Well, it needs to play first. Yeah, Carey just walked away. That's perfect. Yeah, that'll be perfect. I know. I saw that. I couldn't hear a damn thing that guy was saying. I couldn't hear a thing he was saying. Wait, what happened? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even hear that.
Like, you dropped. I'm like, wait, what?
I thought he was just saying it was too loud.
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Kerry Davis, joined by Andrew Marsh and Randy Carricker. And the Cardinals made a plan this offseason to add to their starting rotation, get some pitchers that could eat up some innings. That's what we heard all offseason. So, Randy Marsh, what are some of the pros and cons to having innings eaters as your starting pitchers?
I don't know that there is a con. If you have guys that can give you innings and a chance to win and reduce the workload of your bullpen, it's all good. It's pro. If a guy is able to go innings and you're willing to take him, into the 7th on a regular basis, generally you have a chance to win the game. So I don't see the downside to that.
I think looking at it, the question itself, Randy, you make a great point, and I agree with you. I just think with the guys that they got, I don't know if I'm confident that they will actually get to said innings that people are expecting without giving up a ton of runs. It's one thing to eat innings, but if you're giving up 5 or 6 runs, like what's the point?
Well, and let's go back to the one stat. Sorry, CD.
No, you're good.
But if you go 6 and allow 3, that's an earned run average of 4.5. If I get that on a regular basis, I'm a happy camper. Last year, Sonny Gray was 2.79, way better than that. And Gibson was 4.73. And Lance Lynn was on a horrible team with a horrible situation in Chicago with the White Sox. So I don't know that the Cardinals will get 183 out of Lynn, innings-wise, 192 out of Gibson, 184 out of Sonny Gray. But if I can get regular quality starts out of those guys and have the earned run average between 4.5 and 5, that's kind of what baseball is right now.
I think the only con would be what Marcia said, if they are giving up a lot of runs. They're eating up innings, but you're at the point where they're only eating innings because you don't want to burn up your bullpen.
Yeah.
Like you're allowing them to stay in the game because they kind of created a mess, so you got to finish it up. And so I think that would be the only con that I can see. But we definitely needed pitchers that could give us more innings, that could hopefully perform better than the ones that did last year, because that was a rough season, losing 91 games. You have to take a real good look at all things and how you got to that place. Starting pitching and the bullpen was one of the key catalysts to why they lost 91 games last year.
And maybe it's one of those things where, let's say they do give up 5 or 6 runs and the game's sort of out of hand, and then you're like, hey, we need you, Lance, or you, Kyle, to get us to the 7th inning because our bullpen is depleted right now. We're going to wave the white flag for this game, essentially, but we're looking for our starter to go out tomorrow with a good bullpen, guys that are ready to go, and maybe we can win these next 2 games. Or, we're looking further into the regular season rather than just that specific game. I could totally see them doing that, and I think I'd be okay with that. Maybe not giving up the game because obviously you want your team to battle back, but from a starter standpoint, you just leave them in because you do need to make sure the bullpen gets rested.
Last year, the Cardinals were 14th among major league teams in innings delivered by their starters at 848 2/3. Seattle was in the playoff race the whole year. They led Major League Baseball with innings from their starters. Houston was a playoff team. They were 2nd. Philadelphia was a playoff team. They were 3rd. Minnesota was a playoff team. They were 4th. Then you had Toronto. Baltimore was a playoff team. They were 6th. Milwaukee was a playoff team. They were 7th. Texas was the world champions. They were 8th. San Diego was not good. The Mets were not good. Those were 9 and 10 in innings pitched. Cleveland was in the hunt till the end. Atlanta was 12th in innings from their starters. And then Arizona was 15th. You don't have many teams that aren't in the top half of the league in innings from their starters that wind up making the playoffs.
It's hand in hand. Yeah, you need that, and I think, again, if the Cardinals have aspirations of being a playoff team, of being a team that can make a push and a run in the playoffs, you have to have your starting pitchers perform at a high level. And I think most Cardinal fans they feel like we didn't do enough, but I do believe that Mozeliak in the front office feel like they did more than enough with the pitchers that they added.
The only thing that I don't think they did enough of is I think that, and I don't know how hard they tried to get Dylan Cease, but Dylan Cease is a number one. And a couple of things. Number one, I don't know how good he would have been here. I don't know how good the Cardinals pitching coaching is if they would have been able to rehabilitate Dylan Cease. And the other thing is, like CD said, they think they've done enough. When Texas won the World Series, they went out and got DeGrom, didn't work. They went out and got Scherzer, didn't work. But they were able to fall back on a guy like Eovaldi, who's just got such an incredible postseason pedigree. There's a reason that Philadelphia is going to be in the hunt because they've got Wheeler and they've got Nola. It's really hard to win, even now, if you don't have a number one.
And to your point about the postseason, this team does not have any of those caliber pitchers for postseason play. They talk about all the time, well, We can't talk about the postseason unless we get there. That's fine. But once you are there, do you have enough to win a World Series? Do you even have enough to win a playoff series with this rotation? I don't think you do. Now, you could make the argument that, yeah, they do have enough to get to the postseason, and then anything can happen, which is true. Right. Anything can happen, and these guys are veterans. They know what they have to do to get ready to go into a postseason series. But I look at the trade deadline at being a critical part for this team. John Mozeliak makes his best moves at the deadline, other than Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt and acquiring those guys. I would say, Rainey, maybe you disagree, that his best moves come at the deadline. So I'm willing to put that aside now and have a realistic expectation of this team up until July, late July. But they have to make a move for a top-end starting pitcher if there's one available.
Randy,
they do.
With Dylan Cease being traded, did that frustrate you that the Cardinals didn't actually put forth or seem to put forth effort to get him here?
He's one player, because those guys are so rare and so hard to get, especially at a reasonable financial cost. He's one guy that I would have given more in terms of player compensation to the White Sox than other players. I would have given a lot to give up. And I know you and I had this debate all last year. Would you give up Gorman? I think I would.
I probably would have. I mean, because if you're looking at it right now, with the way the roster is, you're going to have somebody not playing. Tommy Edman might not be playing. Maybe Brendan Donovan isn't playing. Alec Burleson, who has been raking in spring training, may not be playing because you just have too many bodies that are like in terms of where they can play and where they fit and how they play. And so if you were to move one of those guys for a starting pitcher like Dylan Cease, I think this roster would have been better and the team would be better.
Yeah, I don't think they went above and beyond. I liked what they did during the offseason to get the pitchers they have. I didn't love what they did.
Right, and I wonder if the Cardinals did approach them and the White Sox just wanted too much, because we saw what they got. We saw what they got from the Padres. The Cardinals could have done that. I think from a prospect standpoint, they could have at least maybe not matched it, but at least gotten close. And I would have been okay with, and I looked at what prospect would have been at that specific spot in their pipeline. I would have been okay with it, but I don't know if I would be okay with major league talent, especially now that there's a bunch of injuries, because if those injuries continue to pile up and then you have to bring guys up from the minors, much like you did last year, then your offense starts to dip.
But it really, none of that matters, though.
True.
If you don't have that guy.
Yeah.
And maybe they can get that guy at the trade deadline. A lot of things happen. A lot of weird things happen in baseball. But I go back to what I said in the first place. I could have looked like a complete idiot. All of us that wanted them to overpay for Dylan Cease. If the pitching coach can't get the most out of Dylan Cease, then what point does it make?
Is that a Cardinal problem, though? Because that seems to be the issue as of recent, not being able to get the most out of your pitchers. And this is a small sample size, but Jack Flaherty had a nice outing the other day.
Well, you look at what happened last year after Cabrera went to Toronto, after Hicks went to Toronto, after Montgomery went to Texas, after Stratton went to Texas. All those guys performed better with their new teams than they had with the Cardinals.
Why do you think that is? Is that like a pitching lab thing? Is that just a new scenery type thing? Is that them just finding something that just wasn't there, or was it a compete problem? What kind of issues?
I think a lot of this has to do with the experience of the pitching coach and understanding the meshing of the pitcher's stuff and ability with the weaknesses of the hitter. That was what Dave Duncan always had a great game plan for his pitchers. And I just don't know if what should we call him today? Robert Blake? Blake Griffin?
We call him Blake Lively.
Blake Lively? I just don't, and I'm not saying he's bad. I just don't know what he is capable of in getting the most out of the talent that the Cardinals have.
Well, hopefully with another year under his belt, he will be better and the pitching staff will be better. You got some veteran pitchers, so possibly the need for the pitching coach to be as prominent in the roles of their day-to-day activities may not need him as much because they already know what they need.
And maybe people like Gray and Lynn and Gibson can be pitching coaches.
Yeah, maybe.
Player, not official, but unofficial player coaches.
That's why you brought in the veteran leadership to sort of help the coaching staff. And I don't know if that is a problem Because I would like to think that the coaching staff would already know what they're doing. And you wouldn't need so many veterans, especially veterans that probably won't play, at least from a positional standpoint.
Right.
But then the starters, who a lot of people have issues with already, to me, that is somewhat of a problem. But maybe it's not.
I think if the Cardinals are decent by the end of the season, if they're in the race in September, we are going to look at Andrew Kittredge as a pretty important guy on this team. We had him on the opening drive, and he talked about how he loves to mentor young pitchers. And he's been around, he's won. He's all those things that I always said, CD, in the morning show that I wanted the Cardinals to get. A veteran guy that when you're sitting down in the bullpen has advice for young pitchers and has been through the wars. And I think Kittredge is the perfect addition to this bullpen for that role.
And he's pitched in multiple situations, too, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Agreed. As Andrew Morris, this is Randy Carey. I'm Kerry Davis. Coming up next, we've been watching March Madness and have seen some upsets take place. Is compete level more important than talent in the postseason? We'll talk about it next on the Fast Lane.
College hoops are on.
Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. We're sitting here at Helen Fitzgerald's and we're watching every game of the tournament. There are some great games going on. You should come see it and you should see what these young men are doing in this NCAA tournament. Whether you're betting on the big upset or a number one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's number one sportsbook because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. I like my Fighting Illini. Terrence Shannon had a great game the other day. I'm looking forward to seeing him going up against Duquesne and seeing him rip another one down, see what he can do. Just visit FanDuel.com/fast and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Must be 21 plus and present in Illinois. First online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have some audio that I want you to come back with. It is, hold on one second. It is saved in my folder. So it is saving right now. I'll let you know when it's in there. But it should be the Jack Holke audio, his post-game press conference. Yes, it is in my Fast Lane folder under today's date, 3/22. All good. No, we won't need a bed underneath. It's going to be more of a discussion rather than a quick hitter. But we'll bounce back with it just to kind of set up the segment. All right, thank you.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Obviously, we come in with the underdog by all measures, but you just gotta, as a player, you can't think that way. You gotta go out there and you gotta think that you have the same talent level as them. I know they have draft picks, and I know I'm not going to the NBA, but I know on any given night I can compete with those type of guys, and our team can compete with those type of guys. And that's why I was so confident going into it, and that's why I say we're not a Cinderella, because when we play our A game, we can be the best team on the floor.
Take it.
That was the voice of Jack Golke, Oakland Golden Grizzlies guard, who helped lead his team to a victory over the number 3 seed Kentucky Wildcats in the NCAA tournament. Had a season-high 32 points. And we were talking about it prior to the break. Is compete level, is that more important than talent when you get down to the postseason? He said it. I know I'm not going to the NBA. I know they got draft picks over there, but our team, and he was the best player on the floor the other night and allowed them to win that game. So the compete level obviously weighed more than just the talent in that instance.
I think in this instance, you could definitely say that. I think these lower seeds, to them, they have to play a perfect style of basketball, and they have to use all 5 guys on the floor. Whereas you have some of these younger teams, the higher seeds, if they're not playing with all 5 guys, maybe they're relying on 1 guy or 2 guys to essentially carry their team. Yeah, I think those types of teams can get exposed in the postseason when this is the biggest point of the season. There's a ton of pressure on these guys. A lot of the guys that are going out there, the lower seeds, they're going to put it all on the line, and they have nothing to lose. They're not supposed to win.
Right.
Since 1997, every national champion has had an NBA player drafted. There's a reason for that. Talent wins. I love Jack Golke, and I hope he has a great run here. But he knows, like you said, that he's not going to be drafted, and he doesn't have any teammates that are going to be drafted. And the team that wins the national championship this year is going to have an NBA player drafted. The odds are just in their favor. So I love effort. I love try hard. But the fact of the matter is the talented teams are the ones that are going to win.
Well, I definitely agree with that. Anytime you have talent, as long as the talent plays together and works hard and are collectively on the same page, generally that team is going to beat a lesser talented team. Now, you do have your rare instances where an Oakland can beat a team like Kentucky, but I told you, Kentucky, when I saw them lose in the SEC tournament, I was kind of off of them because I felt like they just weren't there collectively together and ready and prepared. And you show up against a team that maybe you feel is inferior to you, and they show up and they punch you in the mouth. And now you're in a dogfight before you realize it. And when you look up the score, the clock has run out and you don't have enough time. So that's essentially what happened to Kentucky. The better team, but ran into a team that was all in and locked in and playing at a better and higher level.
That's going to happen now and then.
Yeah.
Can you win 6 in a row doing that?
It's tough. It's tough because obviously the more you go into at least this tournament, right? I think this conversation is sort of moot when you get into a series. Like if we started talking about baseball or NHL or the NBA, most of the time the better team is going to win over a series. Right. Now we've seen cases where that wasn't the case, and we've seen it here. It's happened here in St. Louis. But I think what's so special about this tournament is that any team could win on any given night because it is only one game. Right. But the further you go into the tournament, the Blue Bloods, those teams are also playing really good basketball as well, and so they're playing as a 5-man unit. So then when you add the 5-man unit plus the talent already, that's why we see a lot of these Cinderellas sort of, they're out. They're out by the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8. Rarely do we see them make it to the Final Four, and we do not see those teams win the national championship.
They play at the highest level that they're capable of, and again, anyone can win if it's one game. Like you said, it's much harder to win a 7-game series if you are the 1 seed playing the 8 seed. If you're the 8 seed playing the 1 seed, it's difficult because obviously that team is better. But in NCAA, in the March Madness, even in football, at times, there are instances where the team that may not be as good, it's one game, one opportunity. If you're in the game, you got a chance to win.
And the other part of this is that, especially in basketball, you can have an off shooting night. A team can have it. They can not be defended well, but still not be hitting the shots.
Right.
And that's one of the things also that happened to UK last night is that they didn't hit big shots. And to win games, you have to. CD, you mentioned a 7-game series. If those two teams play a 7-game series, that doesn't.
Kentucky wins.
Kentucky wins in 5, right?
Yeah,
or 6? 6 at the most?
4-1. They might lose the first game, reset, and say, you know, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they steamroll them for the next 4 games.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it, too.
And a perfect example for me is the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. That team got blown out by the Russians just days before they had their rematch. The United States plays that team 10 times, and we heard it in the movie.
Right.
They might win 9.
Right.
They probably would win 9, but for that one game, they didn't. So, but that's what I think makes this tournament so much fun is that you do have these players that they put it all on the line because we mentioned it before. This could be their last ever game playing basketball at a competitive level. Whereas some of these guys, they lose. They're going to the NBA. They're going to the G League. They have more basketball to play, so maybe it doesn't hurt as much. But for some of these lower-seeded teams, this is it. And this is the biggest game of their life, and they're going to put it all on the line.
And that's what makes this weekend so cool.
Yeah.
Because it is people that are playing with a lot of emotion. There's guys that are going to be first-round picks that are freshmen right now. They know they're going. But a guy like Golke is playing with a ton of emotion because he knows this is the end. And that's what makes this so great, that he can come off the bench and hit 10 three-pointers last night and pretty much by himself take down the big bad Kentucky Wildcats.
And that's what makes it beautiful. I'm looking at the Stetson UConn score. UConn won 91-52. Stetson believed that they could win that game. It's just the place you have to go as an athlete to feel like you can do things that most people don't think you can. And that's what does make this tournament so beautiful.
And to answer our initial question, doesn't matter what sport, doesn't matter what level, give me the team with the most talent that I'm going to take my chances.
Interesting.
Every time.
It's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's.
Yeah.
I want guys that can play. And because the guys that can play, even if they're not playing well, eventually the better team or the better player will rise to the top.
So in hockey, though, I look at hockey and I look at the playoffs. It's a complete different game than the regular season. That is a sport, though, that I do believe hard work, because of the way it's played, hard work can outplay talent. We saw that last year with the Florida Panthers, and now they're one of the best teams in the league. But we saw that with the Blues in 2019, where they would literally just pound the opposition so much against the San Jose Sharks that they couldn't even have a full team.
But here's the thing in hockey, is you can have an unconscious goalie.
That's true.
And the Blues had that, and they didn't have the most talent. We all thought Tampa Bay was going to win the Stanley Cup that year. They get swept, right? Out of the first round. It's the only sport where a guy can steal games like a goalie can in hockey. But the main guy Bobrovsky was great last year in the playoffs.
Right.
But Matthew Tkachuk can lead a team to wins, and he did. He had 3 overtime goals last year?
It was something like that. He was incredible.
He was amazing. So one guy in hockey in a playoff series can take over.
You got to have superstars. I'll take those guys every day. That's Randy, I'm Carey, and that's Marsh. Coming up next, we have a Sports Six-Pack. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. If you have a comment that you want to leave in the Sports Six-Pack, leave it there. That's coming up next on the Fast Lane.
ESPN is everywhere.
Yeah, no worries. I just got an email from Sandy. I just wanted to make sure that you had them. No worries at all. No worries at all. Just wanted to touch base with you about it. Absolutely. All right. Appreciate you. You're welcome. Six-pack here in, 1 minute. Cool. And I'll be ready for Carey to cue me in the same way. Everything's queued up in the hut. Awesome. Thank you.
Bradford, do I have live after this?
It's time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is now.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. It's time for the Sports Six-Pack. Get your text in to the Air Comfort Service text line.
Before we get to the texts,
yes, sir.
Can we wish our friend, the 6-1 Hate, a miserable birthday?
He's an Aries, so listen, you're okay with me.
Today's his birthday.
Happy birthday, 6-1
I don't think he likes happy.
Not.
You
like the Grinch?
Yeah.
I love the 6-1 Hate.
He's awesome. He's awesome.
I love the passion. You know, we don't see a ton of passion like that these days. Obviously, we have a ton of listeners that do have passion, but the passion that the 6-1 Hate brings each and every day for the Cardinals and the Blues, I love it. I love it.
Me too.
So we do get a kick out of it.
He just wants to win.
We kid because we care.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, exactly.
Question number one.
Question number one.
From the 6-1-8, if Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes make it to the championship game, who will have the most viewers? Will it be the men's or women's final?
Women's. Even if she doesn't make it. I mean, just the women's basketball game has taken over in college basketball. It's taken over the men's game because the names are more recognizable. You know who they are. You know who the coaches are. I think, a couple of years ago when they made they were showing the facilities for the women's NCAA tournament versus the men's and how poorly it was put together, how lackluster it was, and it felt like no one cared. And really from that moment on, the women's game has really ascended ahead of the men's game in terms of viewership, in my opinion.
And there's a couple of things that have happened. Number one, Iowa had the massive comeback. Was it against Penn State in the Big Ten down the stretch? They were down 7 with 2 minutes left.
Yeah,
Caitlin Clark went crazy, okay? Then the other thing, they had the fight, the South Carolina and LSU fight.
Yeah.
And that, even though everybody calls it ugly and despicable, that spurs interest. And then you have a polarizing coach like Kim Mulkey at LSU saying, I wish you would have pushed Angel Reese. Now we got some passion. And I do think that helps drive viewership. Certainly the biggest star in college basketball, even now, after the first round of the NCAA tournament, is Caitlin Clark. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Oh, no question. When you have celebrities going to your college basketball games, flying nevertheless, in Iowa.
Yeah.
It's not like we're on the West Coast. We're not in LA. It's not USC. We're not on the East Coast. It's Iowa. When you have celebrities going to watch you play, yeah, the women's game right now I think is bigger than the men's game.
And it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Watching them and watching all of these young ladies and seeing the names and seeing the players, how they ascend. Juju Watkins from USC, a freshman that has been a star, a stud all season long. There are some really good young ladies that can play basketball, and the game is fun to watch.
Now, what I will say about the men's game is that, and we mentioned this yesterday, there's not a ton of players that we No, compared to previous years. But what I love about the tournament is that this is the time of the year where you can make a name for yourself, and that is what drives the storylines throughout the month of March into April, into the Final Four. So I love that.
Question number 2, please.
Question number 2.
From the 636, what is your go-to for an appetizer and drink when watching a sporting event at a bar?
Well, I just had some world-famous chicken tenders here at Helen Fitzgerald's, and we'd love to have you stop by. We're here for another hour or so, and you can come by and watch all the NCAA action. When I am at a bar or a restaurant, there are 2 things. Number 1, no surprise, love wings, love to try wings everywhere I go. But I chose the chicken tenders by an eyelash over nachos. I'll order a nice plate of nachos all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm usually a calamari guy.
Really?
I like calamari.
Oh, calamari's good.
Yeah, I am.
At a
huge
bar,
fan.
though?
Anywhere. Like,
Okay.
For an appetizer, yeah.
How about you?
Well, if I'm not at Cyberg's or Helen Fitzgerald's getting Saigoons, chicken tenders are definitely a good one to go to. But I think for me, my favorite all-time appetizer has to be spinach and artichoke dip.
Okay.
Good call.
That's probably my favorite, and that dates back to when I was a little kid. So I'll always, if you have good spinach and artichoke dip, I'm more than likely I'm ordering it.
Could I throw another one in there?
Yeah.
Because we are in St. Louis, toasted wraps.
Oh yeah. That's a given.
That is a given.
Those they should give out toasted wraps like it's bread.
When you walk in, it should be free.
It should be.
Yeah, I agree.
And for a drink, Randy, you like to get your Diet Dr. Pepper?
You betcha. Yeah.
I always like getting Dr. Pepper as well if I'm not getting a beer or whatnot. So Dr. Pepper's my favorite drink. How about you, Carey?
I'm more of a cherry Pepsi.
Oh yes,
If I'm gonna drink a soda, it's gonna be a cherry Pepsi.
Like the wild cherry Pepsi.
Yeah, get a little bite, little kick to it.
Those are good. Have you had a cherry Pepsi like the slushy?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
Yes.
those are unbelievable.
It's just sugar.
That's like the best brain freeze ever.
Oh yes. Now,
well worth it.
Yeah.
when you guys get slushies, do you mix?
I will sometimes.
You will?
Yeah.
I don't. You know who? Another nice. Speaking of Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper Icy or slushy is really good too.
Yes. But I like mixing all of them. If I ever went to like 7-Eleven as a kid, getting a Slurpee.
A quick trip, just filling all
of
that.
them. All of them. Give me the Rooster Booster Freeze. Give me all of them.
Everything. Question number 3, please.
Question number 3.
From the 636, who do you guys think will have a more aggressive offseason, the Cardinals or the Blues, whether they both make the playoffs or not?
I think it's the Blues. I think, we were talking about how the roster was looking. We talked about it with Army. When he had his press conference right after the trade deadline when they didn't make any moves and they had lost 3 in a row. And the questions were, well, what does this team look like in the offseason? And he kind of slow talked it, but in my opinion, at that time, the team needs to look differently because you had been struggling. Now, I think there will be a few players that will be different on this roster than there will be next year, and it'll be noticeable for this team.
I think it's going to be the Cardinals. I still think the Blues are boxed in. I know the salary cap is going up, but they've got some untradeable big contracts, and they still have the constrictions of the salary cap, whereas the Cardinals have, if they want, Lynn coming off the books, Gibson coming off the books, several relievers, Middleton being one of them. I believe that Kittredge is another guy that comes off the books after this year. Goldie, if they want, can come off the books. I think they have more opportunity because they aren't constrained by the salary cap to have a more dramatic look in the offseason.
Question number 4, please.
Question number 4.
All right, guys, St. Louis City SC takes on DC United tomorrow. Start time is at 7:30. Do you guys believe that the hype for City SC is the same as it was last year? And if not, why is that?
No, because the novelty has worn off a little bit. And last year they got off to such an incredible start. They were 5-0.
Yeah.
And now, what are we, 1-0-3, I think, after the first 4 matches. So I think the novelty and that early success helped them last year. I think the other thing is we did the morning show last year. We kind of fell in love with Santa Claus.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have a point yet.
Yeah. I think him getting injured last year probably slowed down that train a little bit. There was so much excitement and just it was new. It was something that St. Louis hadn't seen, hadn't experienced yet. I'm not saying that they're over the experience as of yet, but or at all. But I just think the fact that it's not a new season, it's not, and they're not as hot as they were to start last season, which added to the excitement.
This is not to say they aren't a big deal, though, because they are a big, big deal. And I said this during the offseason, and I think it'll be borne out during the season. If the Cardinals have the season that I expect them to have, to be around 500, I think once we get to July, August, there might be as much interest in City as there is in the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I know multiple people, and this is not a good thing for the Cardinals, and it's only the fault of the people who have put the team together. But season ticket holders that had tickets for both, that had to make a choice, that chose City rather than picking up their Cardinal season tickets again.
I think for me, and not so much now, but when the Cardinals and the Blues were both hot, they were both making the playoffs. Before I started working here, and you really have to like dive into all the sports, when it was hockey season and the Blues are in the playoffs, like I'm dialed into Blues hockey. Right. And then once that season is over, then it's time we start, getting going with the Cardinals. And the Cardinals are already playing, I'm watching games, but I'm more concerned with how the Blues are playing. And I feel like what you just said, if the Cardinals are at a spot, and same thing, it's October, right? Cardinals are playing October baseball, the Blues season starting. I'm watching, I'm dialed into the Cardinals. I think you could say the same thing for once the Cardinals, if they do start to struggle midway through the year, that you're watching, your viewership starts to turn to City SC.
And ultimately, it's really all about winning, because in 2000 through 2004, you couldn't get a Rams ticket. You couldn't get a Cardinals ticket because they were really good every single year, except for 03. You couldn't get a Blues ticket. They win the President's Trophy in 2000, and then they go on that little roll where they were really good for that stretch until 04 when they fired Quenneville. But especially for 2000, 2001, 2002, there was a sports ticket in town to be had cheap.
Right. It's a good time.
Yep, just win.
Got time for one more question, number 5, please.
Question number 5.
From the 217, this one's for you, Carey. Were you considering Arena League or other football if you didn't make it? If you did not make an NFL roster after college?
Well, I didn't think about that. I did think about it after I was told that I wasn't going to get re-signed. So in 2011, I definitely thought about the Canadian Football League. Looking back on it, I probably should have done it. I didn't at the time. I never considered arena football because there's no way in hell I'm running into a wall. Like, hitting the ground is hard enough.
Yeah.
That damn wall don't move, so I wasn't running into a wall. But I did consider the Canadian Football League. Looking back on it, I wish I would have gone to Canada and probably played about 2 or 3 more years, but I decided not to. That would have been the only thing I would have done, though.
Jamie would have loved that.
Yeah. First time you walked into an NFL locker room as a free agent.
Oh, man. It was the Indianapolis Colts. And
who was the quarterback?
It was Peyton Manning. It was an experience, man. Just walking into that locker room and seeing those guys in those meeting rooms, it was amazing. My first welcome to the NFL moment, I told Randy this, standing in the huddle with the entire offensive line, Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James, Reggie Wayne, Marcus Pollard was the starting tight end, and I'm kind of looking around and I'm like, whoa. Man, Marvin Harrison joins us. I'm in here with the starting Indianapolis Colts. Oh, my God. Cool. Marvin jogs to the huddle, and I'm just watching him jog to the huddle, and I'm staring at him the whole time because that's making the circle complete.
Yeah.
He's in the huddle. I'm just looking at him. Peyton calls a play, and I don't know what the hell he said.
I was just going to ask, did you even know what the play was?
Whoa, what happened? I don't know.
Manning, Edge, Wayne, Wilby, Harrison,
yes.
All Hall of Famers. Any other Hall of Famers in that huddle? Probably not on the offensive line.
Not on the O-line.
Saturday,
no.
maybe?
I don't think Saturday is. He may end up being, but I don't think he is yet.
So, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a great group of guys. That's Jay. That's Randy. That's Marsh. I'm Kerry Davis. Coming up next, we have Jamie Rivers joining us from Minnesota. He's on the road. We'll talk to him about last night's big win and how much more can the Blues go and how much further can they go. That's next on the Fast Lane.
101 ESPN.
You're good to call Jamie? baseball oriented. Oh. Yeah, we dropped a headphone.
Workers' compensation. Call Honor Law 314 or 618-9-MILLION. That's 314 or 618-9-ALL-ZERO. This is J-Dubs. Commercial Stalter J-Dubs in Technical every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 right here on 101 ESPN. And as always, it's brought to you by Starting Business Solutions. Tune in for the latest from the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour, our local golf scene, and much, much more. That's Golf with Jay Delsman, featuring the biggest news in golf every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on 101 ESPN.
What's up? I think so.
I can confirm for you guys, too.
Oh, okay. I mean, unless he decided to get in a car and drive somewhere else. Well, looks like MLB is investigating Shohei Ohtani.
The only thing worse than a pitcher running out of gas on the mound is your old phone running out of storage for your photos in the stands. Switch to Verizon and get a great deal on a new iPhone 15 Pro with tons of storage for all the ballpark pics you want. Just trade in your iPhone, any model, in any condition, so you'll feel like you're winning, even when your team's not. Trade in any iPhone in any condition for a great deal on iPhone 15 Pro without any emotion, and get iPad and Apple Watch SE with eligible service plans, only on Verizon.
What's keeping you from learning the language you've always wanted to speak?
Too hard.
Takes too long. Not with Babbel. Babbel's interactive lessons, podcasts, games, and more make learning fun.
Fun isn't hard.
Right. And in 10 minutes a day, Babbel's bite-sized lessons are designed to get you having real conversations in as little as 3 weeks.
That's not long.
It's not hard.
It's perfect.
It starts here. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Randy Carricker here with Jim Olive, the Auto Loan Pro from AutoLoanPro.com. Jim, if people are in the market for a new car or truck, why should they go to AutoLoanPro.com right now?
Simply put, Randy, rates are at an all-time high, and we're here to help people get in the car, truck, SUV of their choice, get them driving today, eliminate any roadblocks that they possibly have with any kind of financial situation, and get them driving today.
Jim Olive is working with more than 50 lenders. He is the Auto Loan Pro from AutoLoanPro.com. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, choose the Auto Loan Pro, AutoLoanPro.com.
I don't know who I picked in this Colorado-Florida game. Wait for look at my graphic.
All right, guys, we're coming back. Jamie's on the line. Good to go.
Perfect.
Thanks, Bradford.
You're welcome.
I picked Florida.
Feeling a wee bit better.
Good.
ESPN. Come join 101 ESPN and Helen Fitzgerald for March Mayhem.
Refreshed by Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy.
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carricker and Andrew Marsh, and we head to the celebrity line and talk to our co-host of the Fast Lane, Jamie Rivers. Jamie, how you feeling, brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing, Carey?
Hey.
I can kind of sort of hear your voice now, which is really good. I'm happy for you.
Much better than it has been in the past couple of days. I'm holding on. I'm holding on strong.
Yeah, you are. You got to quit gargling with that Drano. It'll get you every time, buddy.
You told me that before, and I don't listen, so I'm going to listen this time. I promise I will. Jamie, the Blues picked up a big win last night, and Jordan Kyrou had 3 points. What did you think of his play last night, and is he able to withstand that and do that on a night-to-night basis?
Well, I don't know if we're ready for a night-to-night basis yet. You know, I think that Jordan Kyrou has the potential of providing 2 and 3 points in certain games. I think that the goal for the Blues coaching staff and for the front office is to see the gap between those games shrink. And what I mean by that is instead of it being 4, 5, 6, 7 games between performances like that, you'd like to see it go maybe 2 or 3 games between, multiple point performances to where he has an impact on the game. I think that's going to be Jordan Kyrou's biggest struggle, is getting to the point to where those kinds of performances are on more of a regular basis.
Hey, Rivs, what's it say about this team that they can play pretty consistently good hockey? They played a really good game against Colorado, played really well last night, but they've been miserable for a lot of games too. And not that it's hard to do it for 82. Let's get that out there. But the Blues have had so many bad games. What's it say that now, when we need a sense of urgency, it's there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the teams that are really deep have very consistent years. They have very few bumps in the road. And I think that this roster, I think everybody can agree that, Coach Drew Bannister and Craig Berube, they've struggled in their tenures to try and find the line combinations that can bring that consistency, and that has been a battle. Now, what does it tell me right now? That when the season, per se, is on the line and these guys are performing, it tells me that the group has character. And you give me some character, and I can build you a team. It's teams that don't have a give-a-crap meter, or teams that don't have the character that you worry about. Those are the teams where you strip it down and you start all the way over, because you don't feel like there's hope. If this team can't get motivated for big games, then forget it. I don't want these players type thing. So right now, they're performing at a pretty high level, and especially the goaltending position. Like, Randy, this changes everything for the Blues. It really does. To go from where people talk about a rebuild, this is why Army calls it a retool, because you have 2 of the best goaltenders in the NHL on your team right now. Therefore, you can't rebuild. You can tweak things, and you can move some pieces around, and that's what they're doing right now. They shifted some lines. They called up some players. It's giving them the opportunity to still stay competitive at the same time because of the guys between the pipes. And I think that's a massive advantage they have moving forward in this retool.
Jamie, when you're looking at this team right now, still a couple of points behind, I guess the frustrating thing is that the teams in front of them both are continuing to win. What are the realistic expectations? Are they at the point yet where they have to win out, or do you feel like there's still a couple of games here or there that they can drop and still potentially make it into the playoffs?
If I'm the Blues, if I'm the coaching staff, I'm that team, we'll win it out. Yeah. I don't want to leave margin for error. I don't want to screw around. I don't want to be scoreboard watching. I don't want to hope that Vegas stubs its toe. I don't want to hope that LA drops a few, or that Nashville, for some reason, somehow, although they look like they'll never lose again, Nashville, so who knows. But, no, you want to control your own destiny. And you've got a huge game tomorrow here in Minneapolis. You got to beat the Wild. And then you go right back to St. Louis on Monday, and you have a head-to-head with Vegas. So worst-case scenario, let's say you win tomorrow, and Vegas also wins their game. You're still at that 4-point gap. You have a direct ability to impact the standings on Monday by playing Vegas. If you win that game, you shrink the gap to 2 points, and now it's on like Donkey Kong at that point. Now you can get your heels into it, and you can go, and now you can put the pressure on the team that's ahead of you, because I think there's way more pressure on the Vegas Golden Knights. With the amount of moves that they've made and the superstars that they have on their team and the abuse that they're taking over the long-term injury reserve money and, manipulating the rules, nobody I talk to wants to see Vegas make the playoffs. Therefore, the Vegas Golden Knights, they feel it in their locker room. They feel like they're the big public enemy number one, and every time they stumble, they feel it even more. So if you're the Blues, you want to make sure that you don't lose ground between now and Monday, but then you absolutely have to win that game on Monday. And if you do, man, I'm telling you, the pressure's on Vegas.
Jamie, it's no secret that the Blues are playing better hockey right now. They're getting wins when they need it. We saw Jake Neighbors go to the front of the net yesterday, picked up another goal, and then got the empty net goal as well.
Yeah, imagine that, right, Marshall?
Right, exactly. You go to the front of the net, good things happen. But is this team playing a playoff brand playoff style of hockey right now? Are you seeing that to where if they end up making the playoffs, that they can continue what they're doing now? Could that withstand a first-round playoff series?
Yeah, I think they're close. Like, look, let's go back to, we'll call them the high-intensity games. Let's go back to the Wild game that they played not too long ago against Minnesota. That was every bit a playoff game. It was. From the first drop of the puck to the very end of the game, that was a playoff game. There was hitting, there was fighting, there was nastiness, there was smart plays, there was good defensive plays, there was good goaltending. Like, that tells me that this Blues team has it in them to play playoff hockey. When you're playing some of these teams like Anaheim, you're playing the Senators, like, those teams don't play playoff-style hockey, so it's hard for your team to play that way. But even with the Colorado Avalanche game, like, you were right there, punch for punch with that team right to the end of the third period, and I would consider that a playoff-style game as well. So I like this team in a playoff atmosphere, and I'm going to go back to what I said to start this whole conversation with Randy earlier. I like the goaltending we have here in St. Louis. Joel Holford and Jordan Binnington, I would put those two up against anybody in the league, and that includes the two guys in Boston. I don't care what they've done before. They didn't do anything in the playoffs last year for their team. Neither of them could help that team win a first round. You got Jordan Binnington, who helped your team win a Stanley Cup, and you got Joel Holford, who's looking every bit as confident as he's ever been. So that, for me, tells me that this is a playoff team.
Rivs, of all of the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of little kids that have ever put on a pair of skates, only 382 have ever played 1,000 games in the National Hockey League. Number 383 will come tomorrow when Nick Leddy skates onto the ice in Minnesota. What a career he's had, and I know that he's been thought of in an up-and-down manner by Blues fans, but you play 1,000 games, that's a hell of a career, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable, and, like, very unassuming 1,000 games because, like, I feel like Nick Leddy's been in the league forever. You remember his name, but yet he's never been, the topic of conversation. He's just always been a really nice accent piece to some teams, including, Stanley Cup championship teams. But, he doesn't look like he's slowing down either. This season here, he's been, unbelievably solid for this Blues team. Everybody talks about Colton Parayko, who is having a fantastic season, no doubt about it. But he can't do it alone. And Nick Leddy has been really, really damn good alongside Colton Parayko. And, you got 2 more years of Nick Leddy at $4 million. People were screaming, oh, well, they hate that contract. They're absolutely loving it right now, based upon the way he's playing. And to your point, Randy, to play 1,000 games, to stay healthy, to stay relevant, to stay in shape, to stay on your game for that long is really impressive. And I'm so excited for him, man. We're back in Minneapolis where he's from, all his friends and family, and everybody's going to be there tomorrow. Just an awesome moment for Nick.
And Rivs, he'll be the 13th player this year to eclipse 1,000 games. Of the 12 previously, though, the most unbelievable is Marc-Andre Fleury. Marc-Andre Fleury's played 1,000 games in the NHL between the pipes.
Yeah, that's wild, man. To think of a goaltender playing that many games and to see him still playing with that passion, that energy, that enthusiasm. Honestly, Marc-Andre Fleury could play another couple of years easily if he wants to. But yeah, you're right, Randy. To see a goaltender get that many games, that's really an anomaly.
Jamie, last thing for me, that Jake Neighbors is quickly becoming one of my favorite players. He is a tough guy. I love tough guys. I got to get over to the Centene Center and meet him. The goal he scored yesterday and then did a half-roll somersault after the goal. I want to meet him. I want to talk to him, and I want to pick his brain and just what has him, feeling that he can sit in front of that net with all those tough guys hitting on him the way he does.
Yeah, he's an awesome kid, Carey. Honestly, I love talking to him. Every time I sit down and talk to him, we have a great chat. He's got his head completely in the right spot. He knows exactly what he's supposed to be doing. He's old school to the core. Super respectful young man, too, and well-spoken. He's awesome, man. He's exactly, if you were to try and print a blueprint of what you want your St. Louis Blues player to be, that's Jake Neighbors. And Randy, you'll appreciate this. He doesn't have quite the exact same characteristics as the player I'm about to tell you, but he resembles him in many ways, and that's Brian Sutter. He doesn't throw the gloves down like Brian Sutter used to. But everything else, man, he can score. He can take a hit. He blocks shots. He's a leader. Like, he commands a room, and he's still just a young guy. He's 21 years old. So for me to even say Brian Sutter and Jake Neighbors in the same sentence, I think that speaks volumes as to what I think the kid can be.
It does, and let me throw something out there, because one of my big complaints about hockey now, and this is get off my lawn guy, but one of the tenets from when you played and everybody who preceded you was you got to sacrifice for your teammates. And I see a lot of teams now where I see players that aren't sacrificing for their teammates. Jake Neighbors sacrifices for his teammates.
Yeah, he does. Like I said, he's a throwback. I mean, he's got that old school mentality. He blocks shots when he has to. He gets to the front of the net. Someone screws with his teammate. He's the first one in there, grabbing guys in headlocks, or he'll throw the mitts down if he has to. I honestly, like, this kid has captain material written all over him. When that might be, who knows? But right now, Jake Neighbors, and just like all true leaders, guys, they don't necessarily require the letter on their jersey or the little C with all the stars like the football players have on their jerseys. The real leaders don't need that to actually lead. Those guys just know that if they lead consistently, that the letters and the accolades find them eventually, but that's not why they do it. And that's why Jake Neighbors, to me, is a true leader.
The Blues take on the Minnesota Wild tomorrow at 1 p.m. You can check out the pregame here at noon. And, Jamie, we'll be talking to you. We'll see you next week. Hopefully have a safe trip, and we'll talk to you. We'll be in studio next week, correct?
Yeah, Monday we'll be together, and hopefully between the two of us we have a full point.
Finally.
Hey, Rivs, sorry that you were under the weather when you got your carrot cake.
Oh, yeah, Randy, I meant to say thank you very much. I did come in there one day. I found it. I brought it home. Now, I hope that it still exists, because Ashley found the carrot cake and asked me, who did you get this carrot cake from? I said, it's one of Randy's famous carrot cakes. And she was like, oh, yes. And so I don't know if I'm going home to an empty tray or not. Hopefully she left me something, but I do know it was very popular.
Well, tell me if you do go home to an empty tray, and I'll get another one in your hands.
All right, Randy. I appreciate it, brother.
You got it, brother. See you later.
All right, Rivers. Talk to you next week. That was Jamie Rivers.
You got it, boys. Have a good one.
That was Jamie Rivers, color analyst for Bally's Blues Hockey and co-host of Fastlane, our good friend. He'll be back in with us next week. Coming up next, we have the MLB.com has some outlandish predictions for the 2024 season. Are they that outlandish? We'll discuss
super outlandish.
We'll discuss it next on the Fastlane.
Blues Hockey.
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey, joined by Randy Carey and Andrew Marsh. And MLB.com has put together 7 outlandish predictions for the 2024 season, and we are going to go over them. So, Marshy, what is the first prediction that caught your eye?
All right, so the first one that really jumps off the page, and this to me is insane, but the Los Angeles Dodgers will miss the postseason.
Oh.
Outlandish.
With as much
Very
money
outlandish.
as they spent, it has to be impossible, right?
I mean, it's not impossible, but it's pretty much impossible. The only teams that, to me, that are making a push in that division could be the Giants. They've made some offseason moves. I don't see the Diamondbacks pushing for a top spot in the NL West. Maybe the Padres, but other than that, you know, I mean, it's the Dodgers all the way.
So what about with all of the stuff that's going on with Shohei Ohtani now? Could that possibly lead them to maybe collapse or crumble if it goes haywire or worse than we could have expected? You think that could lead that team to lead to their demise?
I think they're too good.
Yeah.
Even if you take Shohei Ohtani off that roster,
I mean, he's pretty damn good.
He is pretty damn good, but this team has shown before without him on the team that they can still win 100 games. So you take him off the roster, I think they're still one of the best teams in the National League. So I just see this being just incredibly absurd. This is what it says. It would not be bold to predict the Dodgers losing or not even reaching the World Series because it's October. But prior to the Seoul Series, Fangraphs was giving the Dodgers only a 93.5% chance of making the playoffs, which means there is hope for the team to miss the postseason. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all, Randy.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I would be stunned. And, oh, by the way, Major League Baseball did announce today that they have opened a formal investigation into the matter surrounding Ohtani and his former interpreter, Ippy Mizuhara. So this is not going to go away soon, but I'm with you. I don't think that'll affect their ability to win the division. They're going to win the division and make the playoffs.
Now, here's one that, not impossible, I don't see it happening, but it could happen, and that would be the Rangers missing the postseason. Could you see that happening?
I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have injury problems, they have pitching problems, and they apparently still have an inability to fill those holes because of their TV situation. They haven't signed to Jordan Montgomery. So, yeah, if Scherzer and DeGrom don't come back and contribute, I could absolutely see the Rangers missing the playoffs.
In a tougher division than what the Dodgers are in, you feel like the division is tougher?
Yeah, and let's not forget that they're going to start 2 rookies in the outfield, too. Now, Evan Carter had a really good World Series, but they're going to have some unknowns. Everything went well for the Rangers last year in the playoffs. There's no guarantee of that.
Now, here's one that we established at the beginning of the show probably won't happen, given the fact that this player is not even going to be starting the year off in Major League Baseball, but that's Jackson Holliday will win the AL MVP award as a rookie.
How many games will he need to play? If he comes up in May, is that enough time?
Yeah. 130. He'd have to play every game after he comes up in May.
I don't think that's outlandish. I think that's probably maybe Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
But AL Player of the Year, is that what it says?
AL MVP.
MVP, yeah, no.
It's only happened twice. Fred Lynn in 1975 and Ichiro in 2001 that a rookie has won the MVP award. I just don't see this happening. He's a great player, but
I would assume both of those players started the season on the roster.
Yes.
You'd be right. So there's a few other ones here that I just think are so absurd that I don't even want to get to, and that's the Oakland A's not being terrible. I think they're going to be horrible. And Patrick Corbin being an all-star and a midseason trade chip.
That's outlandish.
That's outlandish. Is there an outlandish Cardinals prediction that both of you guys have for this season?
Well, I think as much as I want it to happen, it may have been outlandish for us to say that they would all start 25 games. Isn't that starting 5?
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But if it does, then this team probably is in a really good place.
How about this one? The Cardinals have a 20-game winner.
Oh,
yeah, that's pretty. I
That's
mean, I set the
outlandish.
number at 12 and a half.
Yeah.
I said 15 was probably really high.
Do you think 15 is the ceiling?
Yeah.
I do too.
Who would that come from, Sonny Gray?
I don't think so.
Really?
I honestly think
Zach Thompson is where I'm going.
I would say Kyle Gibson.
He won 15 last year.
Kyle Gibson. I don't know if it'll be Lance Lynn, but I think Kyle Gibson, 15 and 7. He's going to have a better year. He's just going to give up a lot of hits. Going to have some games where he gets roughed up pretty badly, and takes the L in those games. But I think he's going to do okay in the long term.
So my outlandish prediction, it might not be outlandish, but it all hinges on whether or not the Cardinals are good, because and for this to happen, they need to have a lead, and that would be Ryan Helsley leading the league in saves.
Oh, yeah,
He's
that's
going to have to play a lot.
Yeah. Which he hasn't done a lot.
Nah. Does he finish the season as the closer?
I think so.
I don't think he does.
Think so?
Really? Who do you think it would be then?
Maybe Tink Hentz?
Yeah.
Oh.
Get called up at some point.
Yeah.
I think the Cardinals are as much as they won't probably admit it, there is a shift to a younger generation. Like these younger players starting to come up and having opportunities. And the best way to do it is while they're all around the same age and still have veteran leadership where there's not a lot of pressure on them. They can perform, do really well, but you still got MVP candidates in Goldie and Arenado. You got Sonny Gray, who is a Cy Young candidate. You have players that are there to kind of shoulder that load, but the younger players can start to usher their way into this team.
Yeah, and let's not sleep on Gordon Graceffo having to wind up in the bullpen either, because he really hasn't done it as a starter yet, but he does profile. His stuff profiles as a really good closer.
That's Randy Carricker, Andrew Marshall, and Kerry Davis. Coming up next, we have the biggest question of the day. That's when we return on the Fast Lane. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. I know some of you all brackets are already busted. You probably had Kentucky going all the way, and that is no longer a possibility. Maybe you had FAU taking on UConn, also not a possibility. So you need to get to FanDuel because whether you're betting on the big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, and even pick who's going to win it all. As I said, UConn looks like a pretty solid pick. They are the #1 overall seed. Houston hasn't played yet. They got Longwood tonight. Maybe they can make a run here in the south side of the tournament. We'll see. All you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/fast and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Must be 21 plus and present in Illinois. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus bets issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Do I still have win donations?
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential.
I think it's next break.
Finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology
we have
identifies
Nate,
candidates with both client
who said he was coming in,
Then you can easily
but we also, like last week, when I was out, you weren't out, were you? But we ended up getting somebody else who we should have had the same dude on, so technically we have 2 fade or follow contestants. So I'll have to, if this Nate guy, if he doesn't show up, I'll text him, like, hey, we're going to go back to Trenton, because he's still going for, like, a decent amount of money.
What do you want to pay to follow?
The IRS has published tax
Yeah, we can go Blues.
rights, which says you have
Blues
the
money
right
line.
to retain legal representation.
It's time for the Fast Lane's biggest question of the day.
You're up.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. We're live at Helen Fitzgerald's for about another 30 minutes. I'm joined by Randy Carey and Andrew Marsh, and it is time for the biggest question of the day.
All right, guys. Some would say that March Madness is the best time of the year. Others would say perhaps it's the month of October. You have a ton of sports going on. I have a question for you two. If sporting events were holidays, what would be the top 5 sporting holidays throughout the year that you get to take work off for because these specific sporting events are happening?
March Madness would be one for me.
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl would be another. The entire week if I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about 2 weeks? You might as well take the 2 weeks.
2 weeks then, yeah. If we're doing it. I'm a huge NBA fan, so I'm going to say the finals. Yeah. I don't know. What you got, Randy?
So my favorite time of year is the fall because you have the baseball pennant races, you have football getting underway, you have hockey training camp getting started. I just think that's fabulous. So I would say the first week of the baseball playoffs would be number one for me. You're right into the heart of the football season at that point. So I think that would be magnificent. I love this time of year. I would go with opening day. I don't think there's any doubt that, especially here, opening day of the baseball season is one. I'm with you, CD. I think these 2 days, especially of March Madness, are great. Masters weekend, especially Masters Thursday and Friday,
what I was thinking too.
Would be fantastic. And then I'm going to go with you on the Monday after the Super Bowl. I think that should be a holiday.
It definitely should be.
We got a text from the 573, the Ryder Cup.
Okay.
The Ryder Cup would be a good one too. I would love to go see the Ryder Cup. I've been to a few PGA events, one in Ohio, then the one that was here in St. Louis, and they were fantastic. But I've heard nothing but great things about the Ryder Cup.
Thing is, you don't get off a day every year.
Right.
So, but I agree that if we could get time off, I was actually going to go the pandemic year. It was supposed to be at Whistling Straits in Wisconsin, and I was all set up to go, and then it got all shut down, unfortunately. But that would have been awesome. I would love to see a Ryder Cup, and hopefully I'm around for the President's Cup when it happens here.
Do you think there's other sporting events that we're overlooking? Obviously, you have like NASCAR that I think a lot of people would,
maybe like the World Cup or
the World Cup when that rolls around.
Yeah.
The Olympics of some sorts.
You say Kentucky Derby, is that what you said? Yeah.
The Kentucky Derby. Now I know a lot of these events happen on the weekend, but if they were to happen, on the weekday that you get to take off work and whatnot.
Well, anytime you can take off work and watch sports.
That's a pretty good thing. Yeah.
Well, what's nice about here is that we don't have to do that. We have a million TVs here at Helen Fitzgerald's that we can watch the games. But I think the NHL playoffs, the first round of the NHL playoffs is one that I would definitely want to take off. And I don't know why, but the first round of the NHL playoffs just feels different than any of the other rounds. Even the Stanley Cup. Like, the Stanley Cup is a huge thing, but for some reason, I get that March Madness type feeling when I'm watching the first round of the NHL playoffs.
The desperation is still there, and the intensity is really high. Now, if you wind up winning the Cup, we don't remember Winnipeg as much as we remember Dallas. I think for me, I remember the Dallas series, well, obviously Boston the most, then Dallas, then San Jose, then Winnipeg. So San Jose, even though we won the conference championship there, I remember the Dallas series more. But I'm with you. I think that first round series, to get you going, and it's like, we all remember the Blues being down 3-0 in Winnipeg, right? We remember that losing that first game. We remember the bad calls. There's a lot to unpack from a first-round series. So I don't disagree with that at all. And then just the volume, the number of games that you get to watch, too, is really cool.
Do you feel like the NBA has a similar feel for the first round?
I don't know if it's the first. Well,
I think it's the opposite.
I don't think so, because you kind of know in the NBA, first round, who should win.
Who's going to win.
Who's going to win. If you get an 8-1 upset, it's like, whoa, what the heck is going on?
It's only happened once.
Yes, the Denver Nuggets beat the Seattle Supersonics, I believe.
Yep.
And so it's so rare. So the first round, you kind of know who's going to win. As you get later, maybe Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, that's when you're starting to dial in and really paying attention to it.
We get a couple texts from the 618. Here's one, the Bassmaster Classic. Awesome events last for a whole week. I've never watched the Bassmaster Classic, but I do like fishing. Randy, it sounds like you have watched
One
this.
time Joe Buck did play-by-play for the Bassmaster Classic. on Fox.
awesome.
Yeah, so I watched. Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know that I'd really consider it a holiday, but it's pretty cool. And there's a ton of fishermen in our audience that I'm sure that would agree with the idea. And especially if you can get off for the start of bass season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for those guys. It'd be fantastic.
We have one from the 617, just tennis in general, the U.S. Open or Wimbledon. I don't know if I throw that in my top 5, but it is fun to watch some tennis here and there.
There are a few events that I would like to see in person. That would be one of them. I think some sports are better in person.
Yeah.
Than especially if you're not as familiar with the sport or not as, don't know much about it. It's probably better to watch it in person and see some of the great athletes and see some of the things they're able to do.
If you guys, do you agree with me, if we were to take a vote, a national vote, that Super Bowl Monday would be number 1, probably with a bullet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Although, I don't know. I feel like March Madness, Thursday, Friday.
That might be number 2.
It's got to be up there because at least for Super Bowl Sunday and then the following Monday, there's no sports on, right? Maybe there's a hockey game, an NBA game, whatever, that you could watch. But you're taking off Thursday, Friday, or one of the two, and you're actually watching the games rather than
not doing
resting essentially after the Sunday.
You had a
Super
stat
Bowl.
about the Thursday or Wednesday before.
It's the most prominent day for men, who are the only ones that get getting vasectomies, is the Wednesday before the NCAA tournament, because after you get your vasectomy, you just go home and sit on ice for a couple of days, and so you just take sick days, right? You get the vasectomy and you sit on ice and watch games for Thursday and Friday. Pretty smart, huh?
That's very smart.
It's a good stat.
It's a great stat.
I'll share what I have got to you all later.
I'm glad that for future reference for me, whenever I get to that age, if that were to be a thing.
When you retire?
Yeah, we'll see if I plan that way. So
you will.
I have. So yes. That's Randy Carey and Andrew Marsh. Coming up next, we got Pay to Follow, Bet the Board, and the 3 stars of the day when we return on the Fast Lane.
The Blues play.
Carey, you just let me know when you're ready.
With the weather changing, March is a critical time to check your home's windows if yours are cracked or leaking and won't open or stay open. Then it's time to call the pros at Window Nation. Right now, for every 2 windows you buy, you'll get 2 free windows. There's no limit to how much you can save. Plus, you could save even more with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 24 months. Window Nation's windows come with a lifetime warranty and can be installed in 1 day or less. With proven quality and service, it's no wonder why thousands of homeowners have trusted Window Nation for their homes, and you can too. So if your old finicky windows and high energy costs from this winter are cutting deep into your finances, don't miss out. With an unlimited buy 2, get 2 free, plus 0 down, 0 interest, and make no payments for 24 months. You cannot afford to wait. Plus, you get a house of windows. You can get a free pair of St. Louis Cardinals tickets. It's easy. Call 866-90-NATION or visit them online at windownation.com to schedule your in-home visit. Estimate that's 866-90-NATION or go online at windownation.com.
If you're looking to stock up for your next... Guys, let me steal you for just a moment here. Marshy, can you hear me? Selection of all of your favorite beers, favorite wines, all of your favorite spirits as well. Whether it's flavored vodkas, maybe it's rum, maybe it's white wine, or maybe it's the bourbon. If you're like me, I like that bourbon. We've got some of the best stuff for you too.
perfect.
Excellent. Also, Carey, I do have the matchup
Okay.
to come after us. And then, so we have two tonight. The first one, you're sending us directly into Duke, Vermont. And then game 2 is TCU, Utah State, if you wanted to represent. So Duke, Vermont after us, and then TCU, Utah State as our nightcap.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Did you just get here?
Yeah, I just got here.
Oh, nice.
Like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, like 10 minutes. So.
You've been watching the games all day?
No, like I had to work.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I haven't really got to watch much.
Do you work pretty close around here?
I work from home right now because I have a bad back.
Yeah.
But I live in Illinois, so.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate you showing up.
Yeah,
Coming out.
Yeah. My wife and them actually my wife and 2 kids have it pulled up on YouTube.
Oh, do they?
I was like, I'm showing up live.
Okay. Here, let's see if we can move this so we can maybe get you.
If not, he said I can't reach, so I have to stay.
Oh, okay.
It's all
Okay.
good. No worries.
Oh, there we go. He's got 3 cameras.
Oh, there
so.
you go. Okay. Appreciate you.
Get huge discounts on all remaining 2023s and Acres at pre-owned.
All right. 1 minute, guys.
It's crazy to think like all the you don't see.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Bradford.
You don't see all the stuff that goes on behind.
By the way, the megaphone, everything is ready to go for that. Sweet, yeah. So I have all of the, all the topics and all that stuff in. Yeah, I have everything on megaphone. That way you don't have to type stuff in or whatnot. Perfect.
Metals Recycling on 101 ESPN. It's time for FanDuel Fade or Follow on the Fast Lane.
Brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Everyone follow us.
Money, 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 money.
Take it.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane. I'm Carey Davis, joined by Randy Carey and Andrew Marshall. We had a great show today. We had Jamie Rivers on with us at 5 o'clock talking about the Blues. He's on the road in Minnesota preparing for a game. We talked about the Blues and Jordan Kyrou and how well he's performing. Can he continue it? Randy Carricker beat up on another contestant in the Gauntlet because that's just what Randy Carricker does. If you missed anything from today's show, you can download the podcast at 101 ESPN, and that is brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. And now it's time for Fade or Follow.
Yes, we have Nate the Great joining us once again. And Carey, what is our pick for Nate? By the way, thank you for showing up today.
Yes.
We didn't have to call him. He's here right now at Helen Fitzgerald. So thank you for coming out.
And we definitely appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Your wife and your kids are watching you on YouTube right now.
They're watching me. Yep. So
There
hi,
you
Jen
go.
and Colton and Knox.
Yes. Awesome.
Colton would be really excited to hear that I called him out. So
That's awesome.
He's 7 and Knox is almost 2.
That's awesome.
So,
Well, congratulations.
yeah,
Hello
appreciate
to you all. So our pick is the Blues. They are plus 120 versus the Minnesota Wild tomorrow. You want to follow? You want to follow us or you want to fade us?
I really was not hoping you guys would pick that. I was hoping you'd go like Illinois, being an Illinois guy, or like the soccer team, because now I feel like a jerk that I'm going to fade because the Blues have played Minnesota once and lost 3-1 on the road. So I think I'm just going to have to go with the Wild, unfortunately, and fade you guys.
Well, we'll see how it works out for you. Hopefully you'll be back next week with us.
I hope so.
And gain some more money. Good luck to you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right, thank you.
It's time for Bet the Board.
Absolutely. So I have Anthony's pick, but of course, Randy, you're going to have to fill in for Jamie. And before we get to this Bet the Board, we got to talk about Randy, your pick yesterday because
goodness.
it may have been. And by the way, you had the over in the Texas-Colorado game.
It was 143.5.
It might have been the worst basketball game I've ever seen in my life.
The teams combined for 100 points. It's 56 to 44. It was horrible. Might have been the worst bet ever. Who was I representing yesterday? Rivers or Anthony?
Rivers.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, Jamie.
It happens.
Yeah.
All right, so Anthony's going to take Nebraska plus 1.5 today. And, I mean, Anthony, unfortunately for him, Gonzaga. So I faded Anthony, and it worked out pretty well for me yesterday. So do I do it again? We'll see. Carey, who do you have today?
Well, you know where I'm going. I'm going to Golden State Warriors -5 at home versus the Indiana Pacers. Got to get another W. They got to keep working to get out of this 9th seed if at all possible, or not the 10th seed. They don't want to have to play 2 games on the road for the play-in.
I thought about going emotional, and Oakland is a 6.5-point dog to NC State tomorrow, and I was going to go with Oakland to cover that, but I think that would be an emotion play. I have seen Grand Canyon University play a couple of times this year. They're in action tonight against St. Mary's, and GCU is a 5.5-point dog. I have GCU to cover that 5.5-point spread against St. Mary's tonight in the NCAA tournament.
Perfect. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. I'm going to fade Anthony and take Texas A&M, a 9 seed over the 8 seed Nebraska, and that's tonight on TNT. So I am fading Anthony, and hopefully it works out for me. Now, we had an interesting text message before we get out of here. This is for Randy, and since you're with us, I have to ask you. From the 314, hey, Randy, Michelle Smallman said that carrot cake was gross the other day on her show. Did you know this, or did she tell you in person?
I did not know that. She never really referenced that on the show when people would – she laughed really hard when Jamie made his comments, or when Joey Vitale made his comments about it. I was not aware that Michelle thought that carrot cake was gross, but I'm kind of glad about it because that's another one I don't have to make.
Now, I wonder if it's just carrot cake in general, because I feel like your carrot cake is on a different level. So maybe she's not referencing your carrot cake, but perhaps just other bland carrot cake.
Oh, that could be. I don't know. Let me let's send.
You gonna send her a text? Yeah. See, Marsh, see what you did.
Hey, don't blame me. This is the text line.
You read it. 314. See what you did.
Well, we need.
What other compliments or criticisms do we have?
From the 636, it's been a lot of fun this week hearing Marshy step up and do radio with Danny Mac and Randy.
I appreciate it, brother.
That was fun, of course, hanging out with you, Randy. It's been great. And, of course, Danny Mac, I had a few days with him earlier in the week as well. It's been a lot of fun. And, Carey, thank you for getting back to what would you say? Give yourself a percentage right now.
I'm probably 78%, maybe 82, but not all the way, nowhere near 100.
Well, we'll get back to 100.
About a C+.
So we got a text from the 314, same text message. This texter says, the guy mentioned it, and then she said, ew.
Okay, so Michelle always tuned in. I said, controversy here. Do you think carrot cake is gross? She said, depends on the cake. If done right, amazing. If done wrong, disaster.
There you go.
Yes, so that means she does like your carrot cake.
We'll find out right now.
Oh!
Something big in the NCAA tournament.
9.5 ticks remaining in the second half. Florida and Colorado are all knotted up at zeros. Colorado with the ball and just took a time out. I mean, this is March Madness, baby.
It definitely is.
It is.
Do we have our 3 stars of the day?
We do have our 3 stars of the day, but
Michelle reports back. I said Traeger carrot cake. She said obviously the very best.
I love Michelle. She knows.
All right, our 3 stars of the day. Our third star is going to go out to Halls for keeping Carey afloat today. Shout out Halls.
Listen, I got the lemon and the mentho lip. I'm over here. Double fisting him.
There you go. Shout out to our second star of the day. It's his birthday. The 6-1 Hayes.
Hey, 6-1 Hayes.
Yes.
Happy birthday,
Happy
birthday, whatever you want to, whatever makes you happy or unhappy.
In our first star of the day, of course, a late addition here in the fast lane. But Randy's carrot cake.
Randy's carrot cake. And it is
It
delightful. I have had it before. You should get you some if you haven't.
All right.
Well, Randy, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure to work with you again.
Oh, man, it's always good to see you, brother.
Missed being around you.
Guy.
So it's awesome to be with you again. Washy, great job this
Thank
week.
you.
Filling in and me down, Jamie down. Anthony hopefully not bumping his head on swimming pools in Florida. Yeah, he will have a story or two when he comes back next week, I'm sure. It's been a great time for us here at the Fast Lane. We will see you on Monday. Coming up next, you will have number 4 Duke taking on number 13 Vermont. You will hear that coming up next. And until Monday, see ya.
Congratulations. Great job, guys.